Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and we are going to be counting you down to the franchise tag deadline. Even though it is expected that the Silver and Black are not going to tag their star running back Josh Jacobs, I still wanted to be here live on this show about 30 minutes early. That way we could count it down together, and then when the news becomes officially official, we will then break down what the Raiders are going to have to do in order to get number 8 back, because from everybody that I talked to, both Jacobs' team and both the Raiders, they want Josh Jacobs back. However, with him being the top running back on the market, it's maybe going to be a little bit easier said than done. And next segment coming up here is going to be around Russell Wilson. We got to talk about it, y'all. I know we talked about it here on this show, and the day that I made the Russell Wilson potentially joining the Raiders video, you got to go all the way back to January 4th. But the real part of this conversation has to lie on if you have the ability to upgrade at the quarterback position and you can get a top 16 QB at $1.21 million, you at least have to entertain the idea. Me being honest with you, if you just sit up here and go, no, I don't want Russell Wilson no matter what, that's kind of like a temper tantrum to me. So we'll kind of get into everything. Then Antonio Pierce said that he's looking for a cornerback 1. I'm going to discuss which cornerback 1s there are in the draft, and then also maybe some guys that you can look at potentially in free agency. The final segment on today's show, it's a hefty one today. We got 4 segments, is going to be around players that the Raiders could draft at number 13 that are not quarterbacks. I also didn't add wide receivers either because it's not a major team need here. So players, because I feel like every time I talk about who do you want the Raiders to take at 13, it's always quarterback, 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 quarterback. So today, I'm going to give you 15 players that don't play quarterback or wide receiver. We already got 400 people here tuned in, and I know that March is a interesting time of the year, so we're doing a March bang competition. Whoever bangs the most in the month of March, guess what? You're going to get yourself a March Bang MVP jersey. Right now, as it stands, the leader of this is Fat Bearded Dad with 10 bangs this month. Every bang equals 1 entry into the raffle. If you don't know what a raffle entry is, this month, we are giving away a signed Raiders helmet by Jeremy Chuggs and I. So, yes, you do have to bang in order to get into the raffle. However, every 5 bangs that we get, we are going to give away 1 free raffle entry. That way, at the very end of the month, everybody's got a shot to at least get in. Then I wanted to think of a new rule, because I know some people, when I wear the jersey, I'm like, I don't drink Monday, I don't drink Tuesdays, I'm not drinking Thursdays. The only day that I want to drink here on the show this month is going to be on Friday, unless there's breaking news. Well, then we'll just throw this whole thing out the window. But if I got your jersey on, so if the Wolf bangs right now, I get to put 3 bangs towards his counter for the month of March. But just like the normal jersey rules, if you bang once, it's only 3 bangs 1 time. Then after that, it's only 1. Does that make sense? Hopefully the answer to that is yes. First super chat rolling in here on today's show is from Thugador. What up, Thugador? Yo, it's my B-Day. Happy birthday to Thugador Strawberry. Thugador, I appreciate that, and I honestly wish that I could find out what type of strawberry you are, because if there's one thing Alex is really good at, it's buying fruit, eating half of it, and then throwing the other half of the fruit away. So, Thugador, you've been right for a long time, my man. If I could figure out a way to find out what kind of strawberry you are, Alex is going to kill me, by the way, for saying that. But hey, it is what it is. If you want to shout out here on the Raiders Report, spam HBD down below to show Thugador a little bit of love. I see Yoda, Cloud, Queen, Venom. What up, King Shab? Sienna, Tadashi, Jonathan, Watt Hernandez, Jeffrey Kreischer. I actually have your jersey here today as well. Zalesbo, what's up? What's up? G-Money. I see Richard, JD Carver, Ryan the King 22, all decided to pull up today here on the Raiders Report. So here's the big question. I was going to say multi-million-dollar question. It's actually only a $1.21 million question. Should the Raiders sign Russell Wilson if it costs $1.21 million? Give me a yes, or I want you to give me a no. I know what fans think about Wilson. He's a corny person. Maybe he would be a bad locker room fit. Maybe Antonio Pierce and the entire team don't want him anyway because he was a Bronco last season and there is a little bit of a rivalry there. The other part of it is, though, if you know that you can find a quarterback that's an upgrade over Aiden O'Connell, that you can get that's cheaper than Aiden, that's cheaper than even Brian Hoyer, I think it's at least an option that you have to entertain. And, this is also like, if the Raiders know that they can't trade up into the top 3, Chip, like, what do you do then, right? Like, if you know that you're not going to be able to trade up into the top 3, we know that the Raiders want Jaden, but could you potentially see an option where you sign Russell to $1.21 million, you're going to let him compete with Aiden O'Connell, and then instead of trading up into the first round, what if you traded up into the back end of the first round, or if there was a quarterback sitting there in the second round at pick 44, or even in the third round, like you could even have him learn underneath Russell Wilson. With all this, I know it's a lot. I know you don't usually cover the Raiders here with us. However, we were talking about it before the show started. If there's, what teams do you think make the most sense for Wilson?
Man, I mean, besides the Raiders, I think the Raiders do make a lot of sense, by the way.
I think the Raiders make sense, too.
I know that people aren't going to like it, but, man, the Raiders make a lot of sense. Let me see.
I think some teams that we're going to talk about a report that came out from Jeremy Fowler as well, because Fowler linked the Raiders to Russell Wilson. And if you're not comfortable with this conversation, I'm just telling you right now, this is going to be a major part of what we discuss here today. I do think the Giants could make a little bit of sense.
Yeah, the Falcons.
The Falcons, if they don't go with Kirk Cousins, could be an option. I've seen that the Patriots have been linked to him. To me, the teams that are getting linked are the teams that I don't know if they're going to be able to trade up to get their franchise quarterback in the draft. So here are some other potential options. So should the Raiders sign Russell Wilson? Continues to let us know yes or no down below. And I mean, Sienna says no. Sevilla says yes. This is also the live poll. If you haven't already voted, which 61% of the people right now say yes, that they would do it. 39% say no. I see Venom. What up, Venom says no. William Van Roy, no. All-Star says that the Vikings make some sense for Russell Wilson. Let's go to Raider Muerte, who's sending in some good vibes here. Muerte, I appreciate that. Anytime you guys want to get featured here on the Raiders Report, #Raiders or Super Chat. We're going to be here for probably about 2.5 hours today, so buckle up here a little bit. Let's go to Derek Garcia. Do yourself a favor and watch Mark Schler's evaluation of J.J. McCarthy on today's Colin Cowherd show. I will put that in my list of things to do this weekend. However, I don't really think anybody is going to change my opinion on what I see and what I think on J.J. McCarthy. There's people that I respect in this industry. There's also people that I talk to on a daily basis that I respect in this industry. And based off of what I see and then what they have, that's kind of the big deciding factor of why I'm not the biggest fan of J.J. McCarthy. One person who's ready to bang, it's Elijah Jared Music Bang! If the Raiders can't trade up for Jaden Daniels, and if you want to shout out, I need some EJMs down below. If the Raiders can't trade up for Jaden Daniels, grabbing Russ is wise, given Cousins Atlanta, Minnesota links. And I said this yesterday that originally I was like, man, Justin Fields, he's going to the Atlanta Falcons. And then we got some new information here, and it sounds like Atlanta's new head coach and also their guy who's running the plays there wants a quarterback more like Kirk Cousins. And then yesterday on the show, we talked about one of the things that we heard coming out of the combine was Cousins to Atlanta is picking up so much steam right now that I do think that that's going to end up what's happening. But Russ's mobility and moonball are key for game winners or playoffs. I'd pick Russ over AOC/Jaden Daniels. Sign at the Vetman, build a super team. I will admit, I would take him over Aiden O'Connell. I would not take him over Jaden Daniels. And if you're the Raiders, which I don't know if I love the idea of it, but if you were to sign, let's say, Russell to that $1.21 million vet min, and then if Jaden Daniels falls down the board a little bit, again, Russell is not your long-term option. In fact, I think no matter which team Russell Wilson ends up signing to, it's going to be on a one-year deal. It's like a one-year prove-it vet min. He goes out, he has a good season, and then the following year, he's going to be looking for that bigger contract. But I will not say that I'd rather have Russell over Jaden Daniels because at the end of the day, I do want to try to find our franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. But if the options are either Aiden O'Connell or Russell Wilson, I'm going to take Russell Wilson every single day of the week.
All day.
Every day. Let's go to Thugador. Also, Elijah, shout out to you, man. The first bang of the day, and that's also Elijah's second bang of the month of March. I got to give some shout outs here to the people showing some love to Elijah. Queen Sarah Otto, Sienna. What up, Sucker Free? G Money, I see ya. Manny, Jose Gonzalez. Somebody said Shador Sanders. Shador Sanders would be pretty electric here on this show. I'm not going to lie to you. Love you guys and love the show. Appreciate everything you do. Been watching a long time, and I'm glad Raider fans have this channel to be a part of. I think when you consider the fact of how much content that we make, and I also think it's really cool how many people from the Raiders Report support other channels here at Chat Sports, and now you're going to start to see a little bit more faces than just Chugs because we're still trying to grow our company here. We're trying to do our thing, and the Raiders channel is a channel that I want to be able to get more content out on. But, I think the fact that we're able to provide free content, and when people appreciate free content, don't get me wrong, there's people out here just like you spend money, you show some love, you leave a tip almost for your bartenders here. But the fact that people tune into the show on a regular basis means the world to me, and it's greatly, greatly appreciated. This might make people, though, not want to tune in. Pick a quarterback if you had to, Russell Wilson or Aiden O'Connell, and this is going to be part of the discussion that goes into it when you discuss what the Raiders quarterback plan is going to be. At the end of the day, I like Aiden O'Connell 10 times more than I like Russell Wilson. However, I like the Raiders team more with Russell Wilson than I would Aiden O'Connell. And if you're Telesco, if you're Antonio Pierce, you have to be able to build your roster and improve on your roster at every single position, including the quarterback spot. You and I both are in agreement here, Chip, that Russell Wilson is clearly the better quarterback over Aiden O'Connell, correct?
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah, this to me is like asking, would you rather have a Honda or would you rather have a Lexus? I don't know. That's just the first thing that comes to my mind. Petey's like, honestly, I'd rather have Honda. They're a much more reliable car, which is
big Honda guy, Petey.
No, I forget what kind of car Petey has. Lincoln. Before that was a Lexus. I got it. So originally he had Russell Wilson, and now he's stuck with Desmond Ridder. No, I don't know. Petey covers so many teams, I often forget. We see a lot of Russell Wilsons, though, down below. Venom said, which Honda? There's a lot of Hondas. I'm not a car guy, which you guys know. Don Wiggins, what's up, man? Mr. T's going to roll with Russell Wilson. I see a lot of people down there spamming Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy, and to me, those QBs can still be a part of the equation. I would much rather the Raiders, if their plan is to draft a J.J. I just don't think that J.J. McCarthy is ready to start in year one. Michael Penix Jr., I could be persuaded that he's ready, but if you told me that the Raiders end up drafting J.J. McCarthy in the back end of round one, they signed Russell Wilson to the vet min, and then they allow McCarthy to develop for a year, I like that idea a lot more than just you saying, it's either Aiden or JJ just going out there and battling it out.
Yeah, give yourself some insurance.
Yeah, go improve at the quarterback position. It's still not your end-all, be-all, but what you cannot afford to do is just be in a position where it's it's Aiden O'Connell or you got to improve at the quarterback position. What's up, John? What the hell, Mitch? What time did you start? We started today at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and yesterday I discussed on the show that I might try to go live a little bit earlier just because of the franchise tag deadline. Now, I am aware that it is expected that the Raiders are not going to tag Jacobs. In fact, I talked to Jacobs' team yesterday, put out a video on that. If you haven't seen it already, please go check it out. But I wanted to be here live on this show to be able to count it down regarding everything that's going on. So another player here, there's breaking news that's happening left and right, and we're going to roll through it here in about 13 minutes. Xavier McKinney, no transition tag for him, and he's going to hit the open market. That's from Mike Garafolo. So, already the Giants did not tag Saquon Barkley. They're not going to be tagging Xavier McKinney. Some of the players that have been tagged today, I did see Michael Pittman. He was just tagged. We got other names were T. Higgins, L'Jarius Sneed, Brian Burns, Justin Madibuike, Antoine Winfield, Josh Allen, Jalen Johnson, Kyle Douglas got hit with the transition tag, so his deal's not quite as expensive as some of these other ones here, but Christian Wilkins not tagged, Saquon Barkley not tagged, Xavier McKinney not tagged. Like during free agency, I am going to be alive a lot more often just because there's so much extra stuff happening, not just around the Raiders, but around the National Football League. What's up, Rebel? I'm late to the stream. It's all good. We went live here a little bit early. We went live here just 30 minutes early to count you down with the franchise tag deadline. And as soon as that hits 0, we got a video for you around Josh Jacobs. What up, Elijah? Elijah's balling out here today. Just to be clear, I wouldn't choose Russell over Jaden Daniels as the franchise quarterback, but for crucial game-on-the-line moments or a deep playoff run, Russ's experience could be a key advantage for the Raiders in a win-now strategy. I hear what you're saying. My only, pushback on that is Russell Wilson, to me, is not a top 10 quarterback. Russell is this QB that's in this, quarterback purgatory of he's probably QB 11 to QB 16 is where I can make an argument. He's kind of like in this Kirk Cousins where I do think Cousins is a good quarterback. I do think Russell Wilson is a good quarterback. Yes, I know Wilson has already won a Super Bowl. However, that defense for Seattle, let's be real, was the reason why they ended up winning that Super Bowl. I still believe, though, in Russell overall. But, I think people would have said maybe the exact same thing about C.J. Stroud last season. And Stroud now, to me, is a no-doubt top 10 quarterback in the National Football League. So, to me, Jaden has that potential. Jaden has that potential to be a truly, truly difference maker. I don't mind the idea, though, of you signing Russell. And if Jaden ends up falling down, I'm telling you, even if the Raiders sign Russell Wilson and Jaden Daniels is on the board at 4, they're going to trade up for him.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's okay. And then what do you have? You have Jaden Daniels learning behind Russell Wilson for 1 year. I will admit, one of the things that we'll talk about here on today's show is if Russell goes, hey, I'm going to be the guy, which he's already come out and said he wants to be the starting quarterback. But if you're a part of this Raiders organization, you also have to be open-minded to teaching that rookie. If Russ goes, no, I'm not going to teach the rookie quarterback, then it's not going to work out anyway because we already know Russell's not going to be the long-term option. The only way Russell Wilson would be the long-term option for the Raiders legitimately is if either A, they won the Super Bowl, B, they won the AFC West and then made a good playoff run, or C, he's willing to come back on another very cheap deal. You have to win if you're going to keep Russell. Let's go to Drew. Chris Jones to the Raiders. Is it realistic? If he hits the open market, I think anything is a possibility. I will admit, I think Las Vegas is going to have to pay more money than what Kansas City would have to do. If I'm Chris Jones, I have the opportunity to go win 3 straight Super Bowls. I'd be willing to take a pay cut in order to do that. Or you go to the Raiders, and then if you're going to a team like the Raiders who haven't won as much, let's be real, not many teams have as won as much as the Chiefs, then you're going to want a little bit of extra money. And I think for Las Vegas to steal Chris Jones away from Kansas City, the deal that I've put out on the show before is 3 years, $96 million at $96 fully guaranteed. The Rams gave Aaron Donald 3 years, I want to say $95 million. Fully guaranteed. And if I'm Chris Jones, I want more because Jones has been the best defensive tackle in the National Football League for 2 straight seasons. All right, y'all, what do you think about this? Besides quarterback, I want you to name a player that the Raiders should draft at 13 because it's no secret. We know the Silver and Black need a quarterback. I feel like every time we talk about quarterbacks, it's always Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, Spencer Rattler. That's what we always talk about. But there is a chance that the Raiders don't end up taking a QB in the first round, especially if one of their players isn't available to them. So what I wanted to do today on the Raiders Report is break down my top 15 prospects for the Raiders at pick number 13 that aren't a quarterback. So if there's somebody out there that you're like, dude, this is a guy. I already Williams still saying Jaden Daniels, which I knew I was going to get one.
No matter what.
Put him at defensive tackle. Manny says Byron. I see Byron Murphy.
A lot of Byron Murphy.
Olum Fashanu. Byron Murphy is a very common name that you're going to see pop up here. Xavier Worthy. Maybe if Al was still alive, that could have happened.
It's a little rich.
Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback from Toledo. We see Nehemiah Pritchett from Auburn. He'd be a good target on day 3. Terrion Arnold, because we're going to sign a DT. Okay, Byron Murphy again. Quinyon Mitchell. Oh, man, seeing Newton down there. Somebody said, let's just go get Russ for now. A lot of Byron Murphys, though, flowing in here. Nate Wiggins from Anthony.
Nate Wiggins, baby.
Nate Wiggins is the real deal. I do really believe in that. I just saw actually something pop up on Twitter about Wiggins, but it was Andrew Wiggins. So I was like, oh, shit, what the hell was that? But no, we're all good. Joe Alt from Patrick B., the UCLA defensive end from Duval. That is Latu. Peyton Wilson from Vegas. That's a little bit early at 13. To me, there's not going to be a single linebacker taken in round 1. Tadashi says Fuaga. I like that one. Arch Manning.
He's off the draft boards.
Yeah, Kool-Aid McKinstry. He's not going to go in round 1. At least I don't believe that he does. And then we got Rome Adunze from Joshua. I will admit, Rome and a lot of these wide receivers I also did not put in the video because I don't view wide receiver as a need for this team right now. Let's go to Jose Corona. Let's just give Josh McDaniels his job back if we're going to consider Russ an option. Yeah, I think that's a really bad take if I'm being real with you. Like, I know people don't like Russell Wilson. However, comparing even Russell Wilson to anything that Josh McDaniels did, I do think is very foolish. But, like, Russell is still a competent quarterback. Like, he was able to put up good numbers last season. And I don't know if you're an Aiden O'Connell guy, and maybe you're just like me and a lot of other people where I want the Raiders, okay, to find their franchise quarterback in the draft. Like, that is what I want. In a perfect world, I want the Raiders to draft Jaden Daniels. I want the Raiders to find their franchise quarterback in the draft. But what happens if that is just a fairy tale? What happens if the Raiders know that that's not going to happen? Like, what if they think that we can't trade into the top 3? What you can't afford to do is if Russell Wilson, who, remember, back in 2021, one of the teams that Wilson said he would play for back in 2021 was the Las Vegas Raiders. So I know that there's a lot of frustration behind it, but I also can't wrap my mind around the idea of you're going to get a quarterback that is better than Aiden O'Connell, cheaper than Brian Hoyer, he's better than Derek Carr, and like there's a lot of people that even thought about Kirk Cousins. Like, you're going to get Kirk Cousins at, let's say, $35-40 million coming off a ruptured Achilles, or you can get Russell Wilson at 1.21. Like, if this conversation was around Russell Wilson at $35-40 million, I'd say absolutely not. But it is, if you just take away Russell Wilson's name and showed me a quarterback of his talent, of his caliber, at $1.21 million, I don't even think this would be a conversation. It's just because it's Russ. Let's go to Carlos. Did you see that Schefter said Washington is open to trading back from 3? Well, they don't pick at 3, so they pick at 2. And Washington may even want to sign Kirk Cousins. Pats may take Marvin Harrison Jr. too. I'll be real, I did not see this. I mean, there's going to be a lot of speculation, and I do know that we do a really good job here at Chat Sports of keeping up to date on, I'll say literally everything, just because that's all we do all day, every day, 24/7, 366 this year. But every team is going to be open to something. I don't think, though, that Washington, I'd have to see the clip to see that, because everything that we've been told is Cliff Kingsbury went to Washington for a reason. And if anything, I think Washington's going to try to trade up to go get their quarterback in Caleb Williams. Now, if it comes out that the Bears are not going to move and they're like, we're taking Caleb, then maybe. But even that, I could see them taking Drake May because they got some UNC connections there. Carlos, I appreciate the super chat. I also shout out to the 925 people that are tuned in right now to the Raiders Report. If you haven't already, make sure you click that like button. Believe it or not, we do a lot of content here, and it is appreciated. It is something that our bosses look at. So if you can't send in a super chat, it's all good. If you're already subscribed, it's all good. If you can't comment, it's all good. All I want you to do right now is click that like button because it does help us out a lot here. So we got 3 minutes until the franchise tag deadline hits, and then it'll be officially official that the Raiders did not franchise tag Josh Jacobs. If anybody wants in for a chance to win some money at the end of today's show, we are going to do a 50-50 raffle. That 50-50 raffle is going to be this right here. It's going to be at the end. Yesterday, we gave Jamari Murray, he won $280. So if you need an extra maybe $280 in your pocket, could today could be a day. You can add me as a friend as well if it's easier. We do duck races just about every single day here on the Raiders Report when we go live. So to the 850 people tuned in, if you want to get in, it's a really fun game. It can be pretty damn competitive. I'm just going to warn you, it's competitive.
It's electric, for sure.
It's electric. Let's go to Carlos. I meant to, sorry. He said it on the Pat McAfee show.
I'm trying to
I'll go check it out. Like I said, we got as many people here in this building that do as much as humanly possible to be able to poke around and find out some new stories, but we'll see what ends up happening, man.
Oh, yeah?
He did?
Yeah, yesterday, Schefter, I think Washington is going to be open to anything, including moving back in the draft.
There you go. To me, the only way that they move back is if the Chicago Bears take Caleb Williams number 1 overall. Like, that, I believe that would be the only way possible that they move back because they want, and it's not close, Caleb Williams. Like, that's why Cliff Kingsbury, another reason why he ended up going there. Tristan Alum, you are the first person in our duck race. Shout out to you, my friend. Let's go to Ruthless Raider, and then I want to just make sure, maybe hit up DK and say, once like the deadline passes, that we're going to get ready to do our first cut here around Josh Jacobs. What up, Ruthless Raider? Grabbing Russ on a vet min would give the Raiders a little buffer if things go south in the draft. Get him. We can't go into next year with just Aiden O'Connell. And this is 100% accurate. Like, this is exactly the mindset that you need to have because I think what people sometimes forget is free agency and the draft are not at the same time, right? Like, if you miss in free agency and let's say you don't get any quarterbacks, like you're like, no, we're going to get our guy in the draft, then you also miss in the draft, you're going to be put in a situation where the most important spot on your roster is then your weakest spot. And it's also going to be the weakest spot in the National Football League. Like, Aiden is a really, really solid dude, but he is a backup quarterback, and the Raiders need a chance to win now. Antonio Pierce does not have a long leash. And if AP is willing to, which I already know that he's not, he's already said that it's his job now to lose, but based off everything that Antonio Pierce has said, they don't want to roll with Aiden O'Connell in the next season. Bottom line, though, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens at the quarterback position. All right, so it is officially now, 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. Eastern time, which means the franchise tag deadline has passed, which also means unless we get some random breaking news that flows in here around Jacobs, which, again, it was never anticipated, it was never expected that the Raiders were going to give a franchise tag to Jacobs. And for people that watched the show yesterday, you're not surprised at this at all. So coming up here, I'm going to be making a video around the official news that the Raiders did not franchise tag Josh Jacobs and that he is going to be hitting the open market. I'll also get in case you missed yesterday's show, about all the logistics, all the ins and outs, all the information that I talked with Jacobs' team yesterday. So we'll kind of get into that, and then we'll kind of just break down what the market could potentially look like for Josh, for the running backs in general. So basically, if you're here because you're looking for the latest around Jacobs, we got you covered here on the Raiders Report. Chip, you ready to get this one going? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, let me get a sip. I like it. Coming up right now, we're going to get into the official news here that the Raiders did not franchise tag Josh Jacobs. Cloud says let's go. Daniel Caps Keenan says let's go. If you guys want Jacobs back on the Raiders, I want you to click that like button right now. I've been told that Jacobs' team has been watching our show very, very closely over the last week. So they might be watching it right now. Show JJ a little bit of love. Got 1,000 people here in the building. Only 300 likes. Let's get those numbers up for the Raiders star running back. Ready? I got a thumbs up from here. Coming up right now, the latest on Josh Jacobs. If you want the Raiders to re-sign Josh Jacobs, spam JJ. Coming up here on today's show, we're going to get into the news around the Las Vegas Raiders not franchise tagging their star running back. Yes, it was expected, but I do think that at the end of the day, there's a lot of people here in the silver and black, AP included, Max Crosby as well, that want to bring back their star running back. And if that's also you, spam JJ. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and today's Josh Jacobs news is sponsored by 8 Sleep. If you're up late last night wondering, are the Raiders going to franchise tag Josh Jacobs? It's probably because you don't have the 8 Sleep pod. If you want to get the best rest that you've ever had, go to 8sleep.com/chatsports. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. So coming up here is the Raiders did not franchise tag Josh Jacobs at the 4 p.m. Eastern deadline today, which was exactly what was expected. Based off everything that we heard from Media Day at the Super Bowl, from the NFL Combine last week, it was always known that the Raiders were not going to franchise tag their star running back, which now I know a lot of Raider fans are like, all right, we knew that. Now, how do we move on? Where do we go from here? I'll tell you how the Raiders are going to handle this situation, and I'll also tell you how Jacobs' team is talking to the Raiders and how they want this situation to be handled. Before we get into that, though, a little bit more of the background information, which is Jacobs not being tagged. It would have cost the Raiders $14.15 million to tag Jacobs, which originally it was going to be $13.6, but then the salary cap went up, which now makes the figure $14.15. And he's going to hit free agency for the first time in his entire career, which is kind of a wild thing. And the free agency class of running backs is very, very stacked right now. The Raiders are still hoping that he ends up coming back, and Jacobs is still hoping that he ends up returning to this team. I mean, shit, he's got it tatted on him, for goodness sake. Hell, I got it tatted on me, and I know this. I'm not going anywhere. So if you want to stay informed around the Las Vegas Raiders, make sure you click that subscribe button for the latest news and rumors around this team. And I know a lot of y'all are like, Mitch, we knew the Raiders weren't going to tag Jacobs. You're right. It's because you watch this show and probably because you stay in tune with the Raiders. If you're watching this for the first time and you go, wow, I actually didn't know that the Raiders weren't planning on tagging Jacobs, I'm just going to look at it. You should hit that subscribe button. So with the Raiders deciding to not tag Jacobs coming off the worst season of his career, which let's keep it a spade here, right? Like Jacobs is coming off the worst year of his career. 233 carries, 805 yards, only 3.5 yards per carry. That's not all on Jacobs. The Raiders' offensive line struggled at times, though. They were a top 12 offensive line unit. Like, let's also be real here. The reason why Jacobs struggled, and the reason why I think the running game struggled in general this year, was more due to the quarterback play. Brian Hoyer, Jimmy Garoppolo stacked boxes up against them. I did think that the Raiders in general did run the ball a little bit more effectively with Aiden O'Connell, but that's also because Zamir White was able to show out. I think all Las Vegas fans, all Raider fans are hoping that Jacobs can get back to that 2022 metric where he led the entire league with over 2,000 total yards. I don't foresee that happening, but at the end of the day, you're going to be able to have a running back who, since he was drafted in round 1, picked 24 overall back in 2019. He's got 40 total rushing touchdowns. When he is 100% healthy, and when he is 100% motivated, because based on the conversations that I've had with Jacobs' team, I think Josh even knows a little bit that he wasn't 100% where he feels that he should have been to start last season. And sometimes you need a little bit of a reality check is what I'll call it. But at the end of the day, I want a guy that wants to be a part of this team. Josh Jacobs wants to be a part of this team, but he also wants to get the money that he feels that he deserves, being the top running back on the market. So coming up here, I spoke with Jacobs' team yesterday, and for a lot of y'all that watched our live show yesterday, that checked out the video that dropped yesterday as well, you're going to know the information that's in this video. Here's the thing, though. I know there's a lot of people that don't watch our show every single day, so I had the opportunity to sit down, talk to Josh Jacobs' team, and they told me what they're looking for, what Josh is looking for, and where contract negotiations sit right now with the Silver and Black. Before I get into that, though, I don't know if you guys can tell, I slept like a freaking baby yesterday, and that's because of our awesome sponsor. Shout out to 8 Sleep, and it's the perfect sponsor in regards to Josh Jacobs. Shout out, spam those 8s down below. Today's episode is brought to you by 8 Sleep, the high-tech solution to your age-old sleeping issues. 8 Sleep Pod 3 cover slips right over your mattress, bringing heat and cooling tech that keeps you comfortable and sleeping deeper for a better, more restful night. If anybody wants to go get this product, you can see the link. It's going to be down in the comments. It's also going to be in the description. You can go to 8sleep.com/chatsports and get $200 off plus free shipping on the pod cover by 8 Sleep. Invest in the rest you deserve with the 8 Sleep pod. In addition to keeping you at the perfect temperature all night, the pod also tracks your sleep and health metrics on average. Pod users see their sleep quality improve by 32% after just a month on the pod. My personal favorite thing about this, and fellas, if you're with me here, spam me down below. I like to sleep and I need it to be cold. Alex, when she sleeps, I swear she wants to be in a sauna. And then on top of that, I got my dog Chuck. He's 75 pounds. He always finds a way to just snuggle in between my legs or just right underneath my arm, even though he thinks that he's still a puppy. But bottom line is, I don't want to sweat. And the cool part about the pod cover, it's going to improve your sleep by automatically adjusting your bed's temperature based on your individual needs. So think about this. The bed can be as low as 55 degrees, and then it can also go up to 110 degrees. So funny story, Alex will probably hate me for telling you all this, but the one morning I was trying to get Alex up out of bed. I'm an early riser. It's easier for me to get up. And I cranked that sucker up. I cranked the heat up on that thing to a point where she got really warm and she was like, what the hell is going on? Got her right out of bed. I'm just saying, if your wife struggles getting out of bed, if you struggle getting out of bed, or if the women that are watching the show and your husband struggles getting out of bed, you crank that temperature up to 110 degrees, I promise you this, they're getting up out of bed. Shout out to 8 Sleep for sponsoring the Raiders Report. Again, if you want to go get started, it's 8sleep.com/chatsports. Link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. All right, so coming up here, let's talk about what I spoke with Josh Jacobs' team about in regards to the latest going on around the contract negotiations. Now, some of the notes that you're about to see may be a little bit less time sensitive, so just keep aware of that. But every note that you see is based on my conversation with Jacobs' team yesterday, and that phone call went about 20 minutes. So Jacobs' team met with the Raiders at the Combine, and Jacobs, from what I understand, was not a part of that conversation. All I know is that it was Jacobs' agent and then Tom Delaney and Tom Telesco. The main clear message that I gathered from that meeting at the Combine was Jacobs wants to stay in Vegas, and then also the Raiders want to keep Jacobs back here with the silver and black. We know that Antonio Pierce has called Jacobs the heart and soul of this team. I know that Max Crosby wants him to remain here, and based off the players that I've talked to, it is very, very important for the Raiders to do right by Jacobs and keep him. Also, based on conversations that I've had, Telesco wants to do a better job, and this is one of the things that he said at his press conference at the Combine, that he wants to show these players, and he wants to earn the respect of these guys and say, like, you know what? If you're a part of this team and you help us build, I want to do a better job of bringing you back. And if you're the new GM, and if Antonio Pierce, you're trying to earn that respect considering the fact of we know where the Raiders players stood with Josh McDaniels. They just don't want to go down that path again. So even though the Raiders haven't talked numbers or contract length yet, which I was a little bit surprised by and kind of disappointed, and it kind of reminds me of last offseason where the Raiders waited till the very last moment, and the very first time the Raiders had contact with Jacobs in a contract last offseason, which if you remember the tag deadline, or like the final day to get a long-term deal done, was July 17th. The first time the Raiders talked to Jacobs and his team was on July 7th, and the fact that the franchise tag deadline was literally today and that there still hasn't been any conversations, it just kind of shows that, again, there was no plan to ever franchise tag him. The good news, though, is that Tom Delaney was in that conversation, and he's going to be the one that manufactures and does a lot of the contract numbers for the Raiders. It's not Telesco, it's Delaney, who's one of the best in the biz at it. So because Delaney was a part of that meeting, I would take that as the Raiders are very serious about bringing back Jacobs. However, the other thing that I was told by Jacobs' team was that they're going to wait to see what the Giants do with Saquon Barkley. The Giants did not franchise tag Barkley today. He's going to hit the open market. And now, even though the Giants have indicated that they're interested in bringing back Barkley, Jacobs has been told and is under the impression that he is going to be the top running back on the free agent market. In regards to money, they were shooting high in terms of like, my literal question to them was, all right, you're sitting down in the room. What's the first deal that you're putting in front of the Raiders of how much money you want Jacobs to get? The number that they told me was $14 million, and that was based off of what Jonathan Taylor is making per year right now. They also knew, Jacobs' team understood that the Raiders weren't going to give a $14 million deal to Jacobs because Taylor's a little bit younger, and Jacobs is coming off the year that he did. However, one thing that was very, very clear to me is that Jacobs and his team are looking for a 2 to 3 year deal. It's not a one-year deal. They would settle, like they wouldn't be happy on a one-year deal, but it is something that they would rather not do. 2-year deal with some good guaranteed money would be okay. When I hear good guaranteed money, I'm thinking like 75% of that contract, or a 3-year deal with 2 years totally guaranteed. So coming up here on the show, I'm going to tell you what Spotrac and PFF projects the contract that Josh Jacobs gets. I'm also going to show you the projected contract based off my conversations with Jacobs' team of what I believe the star running back could get. However, you're seeing right now on screen a lot of question marks. I always tell you my projections. I always give you my thoughts. This show is built on the idea of all of us sitting in a room right now, all 1,000 of us, having a real-life conversation of what would you give Jacob? So guess what? The only thing that I want you to comment on this video, especially if you made it this far, is let me know in a comment how many years you think he's going to get. What's the total money you believe Jacobs is going to get? How much money per year you think he's going to get? And then the guarantees. I understand that's a lot to ask for. But you know what? If you just take 2 minutes, you think about it, you write it down, and then when I talk about this entire offseason, you can stay close to your numbers, and then you can say, hey, Mitch, I told you so. So the projected numbers here for Josh Jacobs based off PFF, they believe a 3-year deal for $33 million with $18 million guaranteed. That puts him at about $11 million per year. Spotrac has him at 4 years, $42.7 million with $10.6 million. I'll tell you this, Spotrac needs to wake the hell up, because if they think that any running back is going to get a 4-year deal in today's market, it's just blasphemy to me. Like, even when I was talking to Jacobs' team, like, they flat out said the days of running backs getting 4 to 5 year deals is over. Like, even asking for a 3-year deal anymore seems like a lot for a back, even if they have the pedigree of a guy like Jacobs. So to me, based off my conversations with Jacobs' agent and his team, what I came together was option A, a 2-year, $22 million deal with $15 million guaranteed. So it's a little bit of a shorter deal, a little bit of extra money on the $11 million per year, the $15 million guaranteed. So it's 75% basically of his contract being fully guaranteed. Option B, 3 years, $30 million with $20 million guaranteed. So his first 2 years on that contract, fully guaranteed. And then if Las Vegas wants to be able to move on after that final year, they have the flexibility in order to do so. One player who I know wants Josh Jacobs back is Max Crosby. He posted this picture on his Instagram, and as you can see, it's him and Jacobs. They're hugging it out. He tagged Jacobs. But if you can see something, it's the little fingers crossed emoji. Now, for the inside joke, I don't think that Jacobs, if you know the inside joke of the fingers crossed, let me know. But Jacobs wants to return to the silver and black. He has been very, very, in the past, maybe not vocal about it, but this is his way of showing you, based off people who I talk to that are very close to Jacobs, he's a man of few words. He wants to return to the Raiders. He wants to be a part of this organization. He wants to be a part of something bigger, and that is here in Las Vegas. Coming up next here, though, we're going to get into NFL franchise tag news to know. There was a lot of players that were tagged today. There was a lot of players that were not tagged today. So, essentially, what we're going to do here is we're going to roll through all the players that were tagged. We're also going to talk about some notable dudes that were not tagged by their respective teams. So the first tag that happened was not today. It happened basically last week. T. Higgins might have happened 2 weeks ago at this point. The Bengals non-exclusive tag on Higgins. If you're like, Mitch, what's the non-exclusive tag? It's exactly what the Raiders placed on Jacobs last year, which is essentially if you want this player, you got to trade, but you got to give up 2 first-round picks, and you're going to have to pay them. Bottom line, it ain't going to happen. L'Jarius Sneed, non-exclusive tag here by the Kansas City Chiefs, which they decided to tag Sneed, not Chris Jones, which means Chris Jones is going to hit the open market. He's going to be the number 1 free agent out there. Brian Burns, he's going to make his deal. He's going to be an outside linebacker, $24 million. On top of that, Justin Madibuike, who was my number 1 free agent target for Las Vegas. Based on the age and based on how much I thought he was going to get, this is why I had him at number 1, just best fit overall. With him not being there anymore, there's another name that I am now going to put at my number 1 target for Las Vegas. Antoine Winfield Jr., he ended up getting the exclusive tag for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Really curious to see what Tampa Bay does. They just gave Mike Evans a 2-year contract at $26 million per year. Are they going to bring back Baker Mayfield, who apparently could get in the market of a 4-year deal at $120 million? That's wild to me. Josh Allen, the other edge rusher. He's getting $24.1 million. Jalen Johnson, he ended up getting a non-exclusive tag by the Chicago Bears, and Johnson was the number one free agent cornerback out on the market, and I thought that maybe Las Vegas could be interested based on his ties with Champ Kelly and AP wanting a cornerback one. Michael Pittman Jr., he got the non-exclusive tag, which happened literally like just before we decided to go live here on this show. So I know a receiver that's been mentioned a few times to us here in the chat. He's not going to be coming. The transition tag was placed on Kyle Duggar for the New England Patriots, which those rules are a little bit different. It's not going to cost you the first-round pick, or it's not going to cost you 2 first-round picks. It has to do more with like the overall contract. But Duggar, if they would have gave him the exclusive tag, I want to say it would have been like $17.8 million. Because they gave him the transition tag, it's only $13.8 million. Some players that were not tagged that I think is notable. Now, my number one free agent target, maybe outside of Chris Jones, is going to be Christian Wilkins. Has worked with Rob Leonard and would be a great fit on the middle here for this team. Another player not tagged was Saquon Barkley, which this is more of a, if you want to stay up to date on Jacobs, the other important way, the cherry on top, the way that you're going to get extra credit with me and a lot of other Raider fans is if you also follow along with Saquon, because Jacobs' team flat out told me they are going to monitor Saquon Barkley's situation, just like Saquon Barkley's team is going to monitor the Josh Jacobs situation. Other players that are set to hit the open market, you got Baker Mayfield. You're talking Michael Owaniyu, I can never pronounce his name. Calvin Ridley, name to keep in mind. Jacobs now hitting it. Xavier McKinney, free agency is going to be up and popping. We're going to be having a hell of a time. We're going to be live a lot next week. To make sure that you don't miss any of the Raiders signings, hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Awesome. If you want the Raiders to re-sign Josh Jacobs, let's get some JJs down below. Let me see where my people are at. And also remember, if you want a chance to win a little bit of money, you can send in a $20 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365. I also see Andy Arnold. You, my good friend, are in.
A lot of JJs in the chat.
A lot of JJs. I know Raider fans love a good J.
Love a good J. A little double J.
Yeah, hey, you got to love a good J.
Gotta love.
Do you know what a ZJ is?
A what?
A ZJ.
A ZJ.
If you don't know what a ZJ is, you can't afford it. It's from a movie. It's fine.
He's giving me a weird look.
You don't know what a ZJ is? Do you guys know what a ZJ is? If you don't know what a man. If you don't know, does anybody know that movie? If you Ashley Daniel says, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. That's right. If you have to ask, you can't afford it. Bottom line, that's a good one. I'm glad at least somebody got that reference. I appreciate that. All right, y'all. The next show that's going to be coming up here on the Raiders Report is we're going to get into the whole Russell Wilson discussion. I also do want to change my jersey, so if you could give me like 30 seconds in order to do so. Chip's going to hang out with y'all here for a little bit. If you want to keep up the JJ thing, if you want to ask them some questions, I need 30 seconds. What? Oh, if you want to ask him about the ZJ thing as well, that's fine. I don't know if Chip can afford it. I don't know.
What is going on? I'm going to find out later what it is. Keep getting those JJs going if you want. Josh, is Marshall home? Marshall, go home, dude. Rebel wants you to go home, man. JJ all day, baby. No to Wilson. Man, Wilson was solid last year. Not great, but his numbers were solid. If you looked at Wilson's numbers and didn't know that was him, I guarantee you more people would be on board. But part of it is just the kind of guy he is. I know, yeah, he's kind of a cornball.
Yeah,
wasn't he? He was the one who was doing like the workouts, the high knees on the airplane. Unbelievable.
Yep. Yeah, it was kind of a whole weird situation, man. It's kind of a weird situation, and I get it. Sorry, Alex called me and was trying to figure out. Chuck's got an appointment today. He's getting his ears cleaned. He hates it. It's not a good thing, man. Dude hates getting his ears cleaned. Okay, so the next segment that's going to be coming up here on the show, which I believe now Mo Chavez said, you know what, Mitch, get me in that race. Which, Mo, I appreciate it. Mo's always in for the race. Which means right now we have 3 people in, $20 Venmo for a chance to win $30 as it stands. We're going to roll through some questions here, so make sure that you guys use hashtag Raiders or Super Chat in order to get them on. If you see some other questions that you think are good, if you could, just put them up there on screen, and then we'll answer a few questions, and then we'll get into our next segment here on the Raiders Report. Let's go to Tom Davis. Do you think a team can draft Daniels, then Daniels does an Eli Manning position, then get traded to the Raiders? I guess anything is possible. However, I don't really see this kind of thing happening in today's day and age just due to social media, and it's going to be a negative look for him like right away into the league. And if you're a quarterback, especially somebody who just won the Heisman, I don't know if it hurts your endorsement deals. I don't know exactly what the situation is there. But I will admit, if there has ever been a time where I've been curious of whether or not it could happen, I do think that this situation is interesting because one of our sources that we talked to at the Combine, and I don't even think it's a secret, if you were to ask Jaden Daniels what's the number 1 team he wants to play for, I think he's going to say Antonio Pierce, Marvin Lewis, and the Las Vegas Raiders. If you ask the Raiders, who do you want at the quarterback position? Like, I know they're going to say Jaden Daniels, right? Like, it's not even a secret at this point. So, I don't see Jaden doing it, though. Don't get me wrong, man. I would love for it to happen, but this is not Madden. It's not Madden. Let's go to Kenneth. What up, Kenneth? Mitch, what are your thoughts on giving up a first and a second pick this year and 2 more first picks for the first overall pick? Good vibes only. I mean, the problem is it's going to cost you a lot more. So, based on a conversation that we had at the NFL Combine, it's going to cost you 3 first-round picks, so 2024, 2025, 2026, 3 second-round picks, same exact years, and 2 high-level starting caliber players. So imagine a Malcolm Kuntz and a Jacoby Myers type of level to move up to number 1. Like, the number 1 overall pick is the most expensive it's ever been, and that has to do with the team that's drafting there. It also has to do with Caleb Williams being up there. But, like, I am a believer that if you're the Raiders and you have the opportunity to go get your franchise quarterback, no price is too much for me. Like, and if I'm also Las Vegas, I'm trying as many ways as possible to include as many 2026 picks as humanly possible. Because if I'm Antonio Pierce, I'm looking at 2026 and I'm like, if I don't have my guy, I'm not going to make it to 2026. Like, those are just, that's imaginary picks if I'm Antonio Pierce. But if you end up getting your guy and you're like, well, I don't have a first-round pick or second-round pick in 2026, but you have your guy, then it doesn't matter, right? Like, then it was more than worth the trade. Let's go to Michael Wellington. Are we still in for Fields trade convo? Is there still a chance that it could happen? Sure. However, I don't really understand why the Raiders would end up going this route with Justin Fields. And I think legitimately, if you were to pick between Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, which route the Raiders would go, I think Russell Wilson actually makes a lot more sense than Fields. Like, based on the latest reports out there, it's going to cost maybe a 3rd-round pick to go get Fields just because his value continues to go down and down and down, which is to be expected because teams know that the Bears are more than likely going to take a quarterback. But, like, why would you, and just hear me out here, why would you trade for a quarterback that you knew was a disaster with the offensive coordinator? Like, Getsy and Fields were not a good pairing the last 2 years. Also, Tashawn Reed, Vic Tafur, Vincent Bonsignor, Hondo Carpenter, all these Raiders beat reporters have indicated that when the Raiders hired Luke Getsy, they hired him because they didn't think that he was the problem in Chicago, that Justin Fields was the problem in Chicago. So, like, I know that there's connections there, and originally when I did this show, I had Fields as my number 1 most likely quarterback candidate because I had Raiders players earlier in the season say, like, we would want Justin Fields. But then you hired Luke Getsy, and as soon as you hired Luke Getsy to me, it's like, well, now it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Is there a chance? Yes. Do I think it's going to happen, though? No, I do not. I don't know where Fields is going to go because it sounds like Pittsburgh's going to stick with Kenny Pickett. Atlanta, I think, is going to end up rolling with Kirk Cousins.
Would it be wild if he just doesn't get moved and, you know, they draft Caleb anyways and he comes into camp and those two were like, not a battle because they'd go with Caleb anyways, but he's just kind of sitting there on the Bears roster like no one wants a trade for him?
I still feel like a deal would end up getting done. But again, the teams that I thought made the most sense for Justin Fields, I did think the Raiders were one of those teams. I don't think that anymore because of Getsy. The Steelers are a team that makes sense. The Falcons, to me, were a team that made sense. And if neither of those teams go out and get them, I don't know where the future is for Fields.
Could the Vikings, if they don't draft a young guy, make sense?
Minnesota, I could see making some sense.
They don't get a JJ. Now, Bears, Vikings, would they do that?
Yeah. That's the other part of it, right? Like, because to me, if Baker Mayfield doesn't go back to Tampa Bay, like
that'd be interesting.
That could be an interesting fit. And if I'm Fields, I'd be open to that. Though you're looking at, I don't think the fit makes the most sense because Tampa Bay the past 2 years ranked dead last in rushing yards, and their offensive line has not been very good. They're a team that needs to throw the ball more vertical. Oh, man. This is why I love the offseason, though. I love the ifs. I love the ifs.
It's great.
Let's go to Christian. What do we think about Quandre Diggs or Hayden Hurst to the Raiders? Hayden Hurst, to me, could be a intriguing, cheap option. Like, think of him almost as a lesser version of an Austin Hooper that you could potentially pair in Las Vegas. I mean, Michael Mayer is always going to be your number one. And, like, if I'm Las Vegas, what it's going to cost to get Hayden Hurst, which is still probably going to be a $3 million contract, I would just rather you target a tight end like Theo Johnson or somebody else in round 5, and then you don't have to pay that tight end position as much. Quandre Diggs, it's really hard to wrap my mind around the Seahawks right now, especially that secondary, because they did struggle at times this past season. Diggs can give you some versatility. But again, though, like if I end up adding Quandre Diggs, it's going to be for a very cheap type of deal. It's going to be for more of a depth piece. Like I don't see him starting over Jack Jones. I don't see him starting over Nate Hobbs. I don't see him getting into rotation of Trevon Merrick or Marcus Epps. And the Raiders do want to add a cornerback one with how deep this cornerback class is in the draft. Like the more and more I think about it, I don't really see the Raiders adding a corner in free agency for anything more than $5-6 million per year, and then they're going to target a corner in the NFL draft, which we'll talk about here in just a bit. Let's go to Braden. Thoughts on drafting Michael Penix Jr. at 13? I don't love it. To me, I want to go best player available for the Raiders if you don't have the ability to trade up. I will say Penix has been my number 4 quarterback, and he's always kind of been my number 4 QB. If Telesco, who from what I am being told is not worried about the injury history, is something to monitor, Michael Penix Jr. is a good quarterback. But to me, there are other pieces that you could potentially get. Like, I would rather the Raiders draft, because here's the other thing, you don't have a right tackle, right? Like, you don't have a right tackle, and right tackle is his blind side. I would rather, if the Raiders are trying to actually target Michael Penix Jr., I'd rather them try to get a Talisi Fuaga. I would rather them try to get J.C. Latham, or maybe if Olu Fashanu goes, you know what, I will play the blind side of the quarterback because that's going to make me more money in the long haul. And then they end up targeting Penix either at pick 44 or they use some of those capital and they try to trade up into the back end of the first round. To me, there's no quarterback that the Raiders should draft. Like, I'm not drafting J.J., I'm not drafting Penix, I'm not drafting Bo Nix at pick number 13. Like, if you want Penix, to me, you got to trade up in the back end of the first round. But then again, we'll see. Let's go to Ron. Would 3 years, $30 million, 24 guaranteed be a good deal in your opinion for Jacobs? It would be a deal that Jacobs' team would like. To me, if you're going to give Jacobs 3 years, only 2 years of that is going to be fully guaranteed. So, like, maybe the Raiders could consider, like, all right, we'll give you $12 million the first year, $12 million the second year, and then your salary cap hit for us will only be $6 million on the final year. However, none of that's guaranteed. Could be an option to consider. But I also know Jacobs' team might not want a third year, but I know that they want an out after that third year based on Jacobs wants to stay with Antonio Pierce, and they don't know if Antonio Pierce will be there after 2 years. Let's go to Hector. What's up, Mitch? Wilson LV and Chris Jones is in the building at the airport in Las Vegas. Woo! Max Crosby contract. Raiders should. DJ Reader and Jamal Adams, Xavier McKinney. I will say one of my favorite things is NFL player is in Las Vegas. Like, this might surprise y'all. Las Vegas is a popular place. People go to Las Vegas not to sign with the Raiders. I will say that.
No, they're there. They're signing.
Yeah,
they're
dude.
signing.
I'll tell you what. If I could make a video every time an NFL player is spotted in Las Vegas, we would constantly be here. I would never go home. I would literally never go home. DJ Reader is an interesting person to consider. Jamal Adams, I am so out on. I think Jamal Adams might be my third least favorite player in the entire National Football League. Xavier McKinney, though. McKinney could be an intriguing pick. To me, the one player that I've already put out as a candidate, a target for Patrick Graham, Adoree Jackson. And it would be cheap. It'd be a one-year deal. And the best year Adoree Jackson ever had was with Patrick Graham with the Giants back in 2021. And he's battled some injuries, but he could be a cheap option. And they drafted him in round 1 for a reason. All right, I want to get into this segment here around Russell Wilson. But again, it is a friendly reminder that if you want to get in our 50-50 raffle, it is a $20 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365. We are going to do a duck race at the very end of today's show. So right now we got 3 people in, which means $20 Venmo for a chance to win $30 as it stands right now. If we get another one, then the pot goes up to 40, so on and so forth. I don't know what race we're going to do yet. That's always up to the producer, and today I got Chip, so I'll let Chip kind of handle it. If you're wondering what our March bang deals are, we do have a few bang deals to consider. So with the month of March, and basically the entire 2024 year, whoever bangs the most in a month, you're going to win a MVP jersey. That is going to be our March MVP jersey, and my idea behind this is I want people who are walking around Allegiant Stadium, people who are just walking around in general. If you see somebody with that MVP jersey, you're like, oh shit, that guy watches the Raiders Report. They were an MVP for that month. Every bang does enter also as one entry into our raffle. Our raffle at the end of the month is going to be for this Raiders helmet signed by Jeremy Chuggs and I. Every 5 bangs equals 1 free raffle entry. So on Friday, we gave away, I want to say 4 free raffle entries to be able to get in for a chance. I know that not everybody can send in a $100 super chat. Just wanted to throw that one out there. And then if I got your jersey on, so right now this is actually John Borelli, Mount Raidermore. If Borelli were to bang today, since I don't drink Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, if he were to throw in a $100 super chat and bang today, it would count as 3 bangs for the month of March. I figured it was a safe way because usually if I got your jersey on and you bang, I got to do a boot, which is 3 beers. So that's kind of how the math ends up mathing out. All right, coming up next here, though, we are going to get into Russell Wilson. And we're going to talk about whether or not the Raiders should entertain the idea of signing the former Broncos quarterback. I know where a lot of people stand on this, but all I ever ask when I talk about a segment that I am about to talk about, I want you to answer it not with emotion, but with your brain. Like, let's have an honest conversation about it, and then let's move forward from there. Does that sound pretty good to you? I hope so. Let me get a sip of water here. I think also somebody just got in our duck race. And I might have been wrong. I think I just got an alert for no reason. It's refreshing. Oh, I'm full capping right now. We got Salvador. My man Salvador is in the race. Salvador Lucas in. Randall Carter in. And as it stands right now, $20 Venmo for a chance to win $50. Oh, Anthony's in.
This graphic on screen, no context, is a little wild.
Yeah.
No context, just, every bang, 5 bangs. Someone said they're going to screenshot it, post it on social media with no context.
How about this? How about I want to put this video out real quick. Can you go full screen, ask a question, give a few shout-outs, interact with them? I just want to be able to push this video out here that DK just did. All right, I like this one. Besides a quarterback, I want you to name a player that the Raiders should draft at 13. You're going to hang out here with Chip for about a minute or two. I'll be back, and then we'll get into this discussion around Russell Wilson.
Let me know. If all the QBs are gone and you're sticking at 13, where are you going? What position, what player? What position, what player? Fuaga, O-tackle's a great one. I think Alt and Fashanu, definitely Alt, maybe Fashanu will be gone by 13. A lot of people like Alt, Fuaga or Newton. Byron Murphy was a popular one earlier. Cooper DeJean. Newton, Brian Thomas. That's a little early for Brian Thomas. Any first-round O tackle. I like both corners that have been mentioned. Quinyon Mitchell, great combine. Also like my boy Nate Wiggins. What do I think of Worthy? God, it's so tough with these guys. You know, the guys who run these crazy 40 times don't have a great track record, but I think he's better than a John Ross or some of these other guys that just ran fast. John Ross, oh man. That was tough. I think he's going to be legit. He has legitimate, he's not just a track guy. He has skills outside of just running fast. I think Worthy's a back end of the first. I wouldn't take him at 13. I'm not saying that. But I think someone will take him in the back end of the first round. I think it's one of those guys where a couple teams are going to want him and someone's going to trade up to get him back into the first. Nate Wiggins, Murphy, a lot of Byron Murphy. He's a stud. He's a beast. And we're going to hear from him a little later on in the show, but he is. We got a little little clip from the combine. Little teaser. Malik Neighbors, he won't be there. He won't be there at 13. No, Neighbors won't be there at 13. If I put my money on it, you know, I think it goes Cardinals go Harrison. If I'm the Chargers, I'm taking Neighbors. I'm either taking Neighbors or Alt. Regardless, though, I think by 13, even if Neighbor starts to fall, someone's trading up to get him. Latu from UCLA is good. Jerzon Newton. I like all the different opinions here. I like everyone having different options.
Different thoughts.
Sweat. Yeah, Murphy and Sweat, both from Texas. Both very good. Trade down.
Honestly, I've been told in years past, not now, but it's good to have multiple thoughts.
Always gotta. You don't just have one thought. Like
that's what I mean. You can't just have one thought. Like you can have one good thought, but you should have multiple thoughts.
Yeah, 100%. You can't box yourself in like that, you know?
I hear you, man. Coming up next here, I'm going to try to box you guys in on Russell Wilson. We're going to talk about him, a controversial quarterback. I think if his name wasn't Russell Wilson, most of y'all would be probably in on this idea. So coming up on the show, should the Raiders go out and sign Russell Wilson to $1.21 million? I'm going to tell you why it makes sense. I'm going to tell you why it doesn't make sense, and we'll kind of go from there. So if this is your time, if you're like, Mitch, I can't listen to any more Russell Wilson conversation, now's your time to leave because we're going to talk about him for the next 15 to 20 minutes. After that, we'll answer your questions again, and then I still got 2 more segments on tap here at the Raiders Report. Jason Ebclass, I see what you did. Jason, all right, Jason, I'm going to give you, since your birthday, I'm going to add Jason here, Jason EB. Jason, I need another 10, though, for you to get another entry. You know what, Jason, it's your birthday. I'm going to count it. Jason EB's got 3 entries now in our raffle, which means winner would get $20 Venmo for a chance to get $90. Sound good? Chance to get $90. All right, Chip, I've been stalling long enough. The 933 people here are watching. Click that like button. Believe it or not, it does help us out here a lot. Let's talk a little Russell Wilson. Should the Raiders sign Russell Wilson if it only costs $1.21 million? Give me a yes, give me a no. Coming up here on the Raiders Report, I'm going to tell you why the Raiders should do this and why the Raiders shouldn't target Russell Wilson in free agency. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. In case you were wondering, yes, I did shave my balls this morning. Shout out to today's sponsor, Manscaped. And if you're like, crap, Mitch, I did not. Guess what? Head on over to manscaped.com, use code Raiders for 20% off, and you're going to get free shipping on the best male grooming products out there. I know that there's going to be a handful of people that when they tune into this show, they're going to be like, this idea of signing Russell Wilson, it's balls. But you know what? Sometimes you got to get a little bit ballsy if you want to get over the hump. And to me, I want every person, before you say no, the Raiders should not sign Russell Wilson to the vet minimum. I want you to just at least hear me out. So coming up here on today's show, we're going to get into the latest around the Denver Broncos, cutting Wilson, and we're going to get into why it does make sense for the Raiders to target the veteran quarterback. And I know he's a cornball. He's a weirdo. He's not a Raider. I hear everything out there. But when I want people to watch this show, and this one specifically, it's let's have an adult conversation. Because to me, if you just click into this video and you say no, that's like your child throwing a temper tantrum. Hear me out. Let's talk about it. So Russell Wilson, he was cut from the Denver Broncos on Monday, and he was benched week 17. And the moment that he was benched, it was known that the Denver was going to end up moving on from him. Because they cut him on Monday, it was an $89 million dead cap hit. What's crazy is Russell originally had 2 years on his deal. Then the Broncos gave him a 5-year extension. So technically, the 5-year extension that the Broncos gave him, literally, he never played a single down off of that extension. Imagine giving a quarterback a 7-year, $296 million deal and then cutting him after just 2 years of that. It was clear that Sean Payton didn't like him and that Payton didn't believe that Wilson was going to be able to essentially be successful in his type of offense. The reason why the Broncos had to cut him now is because $37 million of his contract would have became fully guaranteed for 2025. So next season, if he would have still been on the roster March 17th, 2024, by cutting him now, this gives him the opportunity to go out and look for a new potential suitor, new potential team. Maybe that team is the Raiders. But I do know this. The top 2 quarterbacks in the free agent market are Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, and then probably in his own little tier down there is Baker Mayfield. Bottom line is, though, Baker Mayfield, he's going to get over probably $30 million. Kirk Cousins, probably going to get over $30 million. If you can get Russell Wilson for 1.21, it's interesting. And there's some people out there like, how is this even possible? Luckily, I'm going to tell you. So there was a report that came out, and this is also something that for the people that have watched this show, I have been talking about signing Russell Wilson to a $1.21 million contract since January 4th. So let's just put that out there. But it has been reported by multiple sources, Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, that Wilson could take the vet minimum this upcoming season, which is $1.21 million, because he's already going to get $89 million the moment he got cut. Now, in terms of how much he's just going to get this season, he's only going to get $39 million from the Denver Broncos already this year. The Broncos, though, they get a credit for Wilson's earnings in 2024. So if Russ really wants to stick it to Denver, and I know some of y'all are like, well, but why would he only take $1.21 million? The reason that he's only going to take 1.21 is, again, one reason, he's making $89 million the moment he gets cut. Well, he just got cut. He's going to make $39 million of that money this year. So no matter where he plays this season, he's making $39 million this year. So why Russ would take the vet min? It's because the Broncos get a credit for the amount Wilson signs for in 2024. So if you're a little bit confused of what exactly that means, and I spelled signs wrong. I don't know if you guys have seen it. We can fix it, though. It's basically, if Russell Wilson signs a contract for $1.21 million, the Broncos also get $1.21 million in 2024. If Russell Wilson signs a contract for, let's say, $40 million, well, then guess what? The Denver Broncos get a credit for $40 million. Based off the way that their relationship ended, I don't see Russell Wilson giving any money towards the Denver Broncos and helping them out in the future. On top of that, Wilson, throughout his entirety of his career, has talked about that legacy means more to him than money. And it might be a little bit easier for him to say that considering the fact that he is made millions of dollars. It might be easier to say that because his last house had 12 bathrooms in it. It's also probably easier to say because his wife might make more money than he does, Sierra. So, he's not hurting for money. At the end of the day, he literally said one time that he wants to be remembered like Tom Brady or in the same conversation as Tom Brady and Derek Jeter. If that's the people that you want to be like, here's your opportunity, Russ. Here's your opportunity to take a 1-year prove-it deal on a stacked roster, because if it's the Raiders, you're going to be able to build around them on any team. Then you can allocate a lot of that other money And you can move it around to build a stacked team in 2024. And then guess what? If Russ goes out and he balls out, well, then he's a free agent in 2025, and then that's when he can get his big-time contract to kind of ride out into the sunset. Now, I do want to say this again. The reason why y'all should subscribe to the Raiders Report is I know that some people think that we just put out crazy ideas on a show because they're too lazy to actually click on the video. Like, just because I say in a video, which I did, back on January 4th, could Wilson come to Vegas? Everyone thinks like, oh, man, Mitch is saying that Russell Wilson's coming to Vegas. No. If you believe every book by its cover, like, this reminds me of somebody when they like, oh, they see this and they don't click on it. That would be like if you were to see the movie or just the title or the cover of 50 Shades of Grey, you getting upset that that movie's just not just literally just 50 shades of the color gray. You know what I'm talking about? Like, what I want you to do is actually click into the video, see the content, because everything that everybody is talking about right now, we were talking about back on January 4th. Look at the date. We knew it was going to happen. So make sure that you stay ahead of the game. Make sure that when information comes out, you're not like some of your buddies who are like, oh, wow, I had no idea. You can be that person that says, you know what, I knew this was going to happen. My job is to keep you guys up to date. If I ever need my car fixed, I don't go on the Raiders Report to get my car fixed. I go to somebody that can fix my car. If my toilet breaks, I'll go to a plumber. Why? Because that's their job. My job is to keep you up to date around the Raiders, around the NFL, and I promise nobody's going to outwork me doing that. So let's talk about Russell Wilson now and here these last 4 seasons. And he's had some ups and downs. 2022 was by far the worst year of his career. However, though, when you look at the 2023 season, I don't think it was nearly as bad as what people think or thought around that. But I'll also say this in regards to Wilson, and one of the reasons why I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, he was very good with the Seattle Seahawks for a long time. And we've also seen when you are a part of a regime, when you're a part of a certain head coach, offensive coordinator, guess what? It's easier to learn that offense inside and out. You're going to have more success. Well, then he's got to learn a brand new offense in 2022, and he struggled with Nathaniel Hackett. Then the next year he gets a brand new head coach, brand new offense, and was a little bit better in that. Like, to me, we are riding Russell Wilson off as totally a quarterback that's more than likely going to be in the Hall of Fame conversation. I'll say that he's not a lock to make the Hall of Fame. He does have a lot of games underneath his belt with 188. But, like, I'm looking at all of you right now, and I'm saying this. Russell Wilson, for a long time, was a very good quarterback with the Seattle Seahawks. Then, changes teams. Brand new head coach, brand new offensive coordinator. Struggled drastically. Then gets another new head coach and another new offensive coordinator and struggled a little bit. My point is, when he's had some, continuity, or when he's had a little bit of backbone, like, he's been successful. And I get it. He's going to add to the Raiders, new head coach, new offensive coordinator. There is a risk. There is a risk to everything that you do in life. But if the Raiders don't believe that they're going to be able to go up and get their quarterback, at least having an option in Russell Wilson, it needs to be thought about. Because the last time I checked, free agency does happen before the NFL draft. And what you cannot do and you cannot afford is to go into the NFL draft with only Aiden O'Connell as your quarterback and then miss on all the quarterbacks in the draft. Because if Aiden's your starter, he's the worst starting quarterback in the National Football League in 2024, and that means your entire offseason went to waste. So coming up here, the Raiders have been linked to Wilson, which is one of the reasons why we're talking about all this stuff here again. And the moment that Wilson got released, the moment that he got cut, everyone was like, Mitch, should the Raiders go out and sign Wilson? I'll give you why they should, why they shouldn't. I'll also tell you how they were linked. But here's the thing. If you're getting cut at home because your male grooming products suck, I got an upgrade button. Watch this. Upgrade right now here. Shout out to our sponsor, Manscaped. And this is the month of March. Like, if you're not trying to get lucky in the month of March, what the hell are you even doing with yourself? So shout out to Manscaped, because today's show is brought to you by them, and they are really trying to help our Shamrocks look great this year. This year, don't just chase rainbows. Make your own pot of gold and groom your little leprechaun with the leaders in below-the-kilt care. Say goodbye to your Clover Forest with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and let your confidence shine bright. Embrace the luck of the Irish and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Head over to manscaped.com, use code Raiders for 20% off and free shipping. Equipped with a dual LED spotlight, you can navigate your Shamrock patch in peace. Worried you'll make a mess? Nah, fear not. This wonder is waterproof. Shaped by the misty moors under a waterfall or even during a rain dance. So, nation, Get 20% off and free shipping. Use code Raiders at manscaped.com in case you weren't paying attention and playing with your shamrock. That's 20% off and free shipping with code Raiders at manscaped.com. This St. Patrick's Day, make sure your little hairy leprechaun is luckier than ever with Manscaped. So to me, anytime somebody ever asks me, Mitch, what are your favorite products with Manscaped? They've been a sponsor here with us for probably, 4 years at this point. I love all their lawnmower products. I always get the upgrade on them. Shout out to them. On top of that, it's the boxers. Like, I really want y'all to go try out their boxers. And they also have like a traveling case. So like when I travel, not all my hair gets everywhere. Like one of Alex's biggest pet peeves is like when I travel with like my razors and I put it with like all my other bathroom stuff and then all my little hairs get all over all my other stuff. Like right there, you get that traveling case, you're good to go. The weed whacker, which is something that you put up in your nose, get rid of all those ridiculous hairs. Like, I'll be real, if you're ever talking to me out in Vegas in person and I see a hair sticking out of your nose, I'm not going to hear anything you're saying. So Manscaped has a lot of awesome products. Hell, they even have deodorant for your ball sack. If you're putting deodorant underneath your arms, guess what? You should probably put it on your balls. Put your hand down there. What does it smell like? If it's not great, get Manscaped. All right, let's go to Jeremy Fowler here. He recently has mentioned 5 destinations that he could see Russell Wilson potentially landing on. And here were the 5 teams linked to Russ: the Atlanta Falcons, Las Vegas Raiders, Pittsburgh Steelers, Minnesota Vikings, and the New England Patriots. The reason why I think this is very intriguing to me, and I'll give you which team I believe is the most likely to sign Russ, because, spoiler alert, they're not even on this list right now. But this is why Fowler believes the Raiders signing Russell Wilson makes sense. And if I'm looking at you being honest, it does make sense for the Raiders to sign Russell Wilson. So this is honestly a pretty good fit. The Raiders will explore ways to trade up for a quarterback in the draft. Coach Antonio Pierce has an affinity for Jaden Daniels from their Arizona State days. But moving from 13 into the top 3 is a big task. The Raiders have not been linked to the Cousins or Mayfield free agencies. It is perhaps notable that Wilson listed Las Vegas as one of his 4 preferred destinations amid talk of a trade from Seattle in 2021. He would relish the chance to play with Devontae Adams too. So my question before I give you my top destinations for Russell Wilson, which the Raiders are going to be on, where do you think that Wilson is going to play in 2024? Because I don't see him not being a starting quarterback in the NFL. Like, you can dislike Russ all you want. If you don't think Russell Wilson is a top 32 quarterback in the league, then I just am going to say that you're wrong. Like, you can dislike a guy, but on this show, I want to be honest with you. I want to keep it real. It's the only way you're going to ever improve in life is when you're just legitimately honest. Russell Wilson, 2024, where is he going to end up playing? To me, the number one destination for Wilson, I'm actually going to say, is the New York Giants. And the reason why I believe the Giants are is because the Giants have been linked to Russ in years past. On top of that, it's also been noted that Sierra wouldn't mind living in New York, and Russ could potentially stay in New York, get a little bit more publicity. Number 2 team is Las Vegas. Number 3 is the Minnesota Vikings. Number 4 is the New England Patriots. 5 is Pittsburgh. 6 is Atlanta. And the reason why that these teams are where they are is because where the Raiders are at 13, if they can't move up, you could sign him to a $1.21 million contract, cheap deal, and then you're going into the draft with at least a plan B at the quarterback position. The Minnesota Vikings, I'm not sure what they're going to do at QB, and I don't think Justin Fields goes there. Like, why would you trade an inner trade? The New England Patriots, I see them taking a quarterback early, or maybe that could be a team for Justin Fields, could be a team for Russell Wilson as well. The Steelers, everything indicates to me that they are just going to end up sticking with Kenny Pickett. And then Atlanta's been recently poking around with Kirk Cousins, and it sounds like that's where Kirk Cousins is going to go. So coming up here, why the Raiders should sign Russell Wilson. Why they should. And I know, I see the comments. The amount of people that are putting the throw-up emoji in the comments is fine. I will say it's a little childish, and I just want you to think about the ideas of all these topics before you say no. So here's number 1 reason why you do it. The most important position to upgrade at is quarterback. If you can upgrade at any position, anywhere, at any time, you do it. Russell Wilson is a clear upgrade over Aiden O'Connell. Anybody that tells you Aiden O'Connell's better than Russell Wilson, I'm sorry, they just don't know what the hell they're talking about. The next reason, you get to keep your NFL draft capital. And maybe you don't have to move up as much. And the reason why you don't have to move up as much is because you're not as desperate. Like, to me, the Raiders potentially trade up into the top 3 is because they know that they don't have a quarterback in free agency. They know that they can't roll with Aiden next season. So that means when there's a little bit of desperation, you're willing to pay more. If you know that you have Russ, then you don't have to get desperate. And if Jaden Daniels still falls to you, you still have the opportunity to get Jaden Daniels. But let's say this, because I hear it all the time. The Raiders aren't going to be able to trade in the top 3. If the Raiders aren't able to trade in the top 3, you're not going to get Caleb, you're not going to get Drake May, and then you're not going to be able to get your main guy, Jaden Daniels. The Raiders' plan A has always been, and it always will be, to get Jaden Daniels. That's what the Raiders want to do. If you're unable to get Jaden, then you have a good fallback plan with Russell Wilson. Now, you can still draft a quarterback. It's a possibility. You just don't have to draft one as early because you don't have as big of a need because you still have Russell Wilson. Here's another one. The Raiders, to me, are a quarterback away from competing. They have 9 picks in this year's draft. They have top 8 salary cap money, and then once they cut Jimmy Garoppolo, they're going to have even more money. Once they cut Hunter Renfrow, they're going to have even more money. So you have the ability to build in free agency. You have the ability to build in the draft, and if you don't have to give up all that draft compensation to be able to get your guy, and you don't have to give up all your money in free agency to get your guy, that sounds like that you're going to be able to build a stacked roster with Russell Wilson. And the last time Russell Wilson was on a stacked roster was with the Seattle Seahawks, and that turned out pretty well. The last reason is you can screw over Denver. And anytime that I can screw over a team that has lost to the Raiders for, 8 games in a row, the last time the Broncos beat the Las Vegas Raiders, December 29th, 2019. What were you doing during that time? It's been a long, long time, but the reason why they can screw over Denver, again, is based on the credit and based on where he ends up signing. If he signs 1.2, Denver only gets 1.2. Why the Raiders shouldn't sign Russell Wilson? If he's not willing to take the vet minimum deal, the only way that I'm going to entertain this idea is if Wilson is cheaper than Aiden O'Connell. And I know that I could still say that, Russ at $10 million is better than Aiden. He is better than Aiden. But to me, you're only going to bring in somebody that could potentially be a bad locker room fit, as if it's that cheap of a type of contract. You screw over Denver, it still gives you more money to allocate to free agency, and then you move forward that way. That also tells me that Russell Wilson is 100% bought in, and I need a 100% bought in Russell Wilson for this plan to work. Next thing is this. Wilson is a Band-Aid. Antonio Pierce said that he didn't want to have to put a Band-Aid at the quarterback position, but that's what Russ is. Russ is a Band-Aid at this point. He's 35 years old. His best years are more than likely behind him. I don't expect Russell Wilson to be a top 10 quarterback, but if he can at least be a top 16 QB at that price tag and then you build around him, that is a playoff caliber roster to me. The other reason why you don't sign Russ is he's not a franchise QB for 10 years. Antonio Pierce said that he's looking for his franchise guy for the next 10 seasons. That's not going to happen. And realistically, this is more of just a one-year rental that needs to be able to teach a rookie. If Russell Wilson says, hey, I'm not going to teach a rookie quarterback, because to me, just because you sign Russell Wilson doesn't mean that you're not going to draft a rookie. Because if I'm the Raiders, I'm still signing Russell to a 1.21 deal, knowing deep down that I'm going to have him here for 1 year, and then he's going to hit the open market next season, and I'm probably not going to bring him back unless the Raiders win the AFC West or they win the Super Bowl or make a deep playoff run. Then you can entertain the idea. But, I don't think it's a bad idea to sign Russell Wilson to $1.21 million. You have Aiden O'Connell can compete with Russ, and then you also, what if you're able to draft a quarterback like Spencer Rattler in round 3, have him learn 1 year behind Russ, or draft a QB like Michael Penix in the back end of the first or in the second round, let him learn for 1 year behind Russ. Hell, you draft Jaden Daniels at pick number 4, you let him for 1 year learn behind Russell Wilson. We have seen that plan has worked before. You let a QB sit. I just think it's a much safer and you're not throwing the year away, where if Aiden's the starter, you're throwing the year away. The other reason why I don't know if I would do it, I don't want no more God guys. And hear me out when I say God guys. This has nothing to do with religion. It is more of Josh McDaniels thought that he walked on water, and he thought that he was the greatest thing ever. Didn't take any criticism, never took any advice, just whatever he said, it went. My biggest fear with Russell Wilson is he is that exact same person of, hey, man, what I say goes, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want. All eyes on me. I want all the attention. That I'm never going to know, right? And that is the worry. And that's why people, even though, Russell, you could get a top 15, 16 quarterback at 1.2, I think this is what scares people the most. So That is why you should. That is why you shouldn't sign Russell Wilson. The bottom line is this. To me, I do not think it is a bad idea at all for the Raiders to sign Russell Wilson at $1.21 million. And if the Raiders did end up doing it, I would welcome Russell to the silver and black. You're getting a quarterback better than Aiden. You're getting a quarterback cheaper than Brian Hoyer, and you're not risking as much entering the NFL draft. You can sit back a little bit, be a little bit more secure, and know that 2024 is not a wasted year with Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce. Whew. So what about this? Where do you think Russell signs? Because if you were to ask the Chat Sports office out there, I think a lot of people think the Raiders. Like, I'm telling you right now, a lot of people out there in that office think that he's coming here.
If I had to put my money on it, one place, got to pick one team.
Yeah.
I don't like the Giants. I think I'm going to go with the Vikings, man. I'm going to go with the Vikings.
Okay. I think that could be a good fit.
And I still think the Vikings could draft like a JJ, but then maybe they don't. Maybe they can trade back. I don't know what it is. I can see Russ for some reason playing in Minnesota. I could see him playing in Las Vegas would probably be my number 2.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, Patriots, Steelers, Falcons.
I mean,
I don't know if
Steelers
I can
apparently is not happening.
Yeah.
The Steelers have already come out and said that they're rolling with Kenny Pickett. So,
to me, it's the Vikings or the Raiders right now. The Giants are a possibility too. I get what you're saying with that. Just, they are paying Daniel Jones. Obviously, they can get rid of him after next year, but
yeah. But I mean, you're already paying Daniel. But then again,
he's not gonna cost you anything anyways.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
It'll be very interesting to see where he lands.
I'm definitely excited to see how this unfolds. I also got a few more people here that are in our duck race. Remember, $20 Venmo for a chance to get in our 50-50 raffle. I see Jose Corona. You are in. I got Amy. You in. Scott Eckert in. And then James Guevara, you are in. But James, you are in twice. So right now, $20 Venmo for a chance to win $140 here on the Raiders Report. This raffle is going to be at the very end of today's show. Chip, I got to change my jersey here. Then we're going to roll through, answer some questions that I've seen come up here on the show. In the meantime, if you want to get those questions on the show, start using hashtag Raiders Super Chat. When I get back, we'll answer some questions.
See if you come in already. Hashtag Raiders or Super Chat. Get those in right now. Hector, 60% Wilson to the Raiders. Let's see. Las Vegas. Steelers. No, Steelers doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Russell will be bad in the locker room. I don't know if I buy 100% that he's going to be bad for the locker room. Well, is he, maybe the type of leader all your guys want to look up to? I don't know. But then again, he maybe didn't lead his team to the Super Bowl, but he was a top 10 quarterback on a Super Bowl winning team. I don't think you can say he's terrible for the locker room.
Just terrible. Yeah, I don't, again, that's my biggest fear with Wilson. You legitimately don't know, but you also don't know, any quarterback, how they're going to fit in the locker room. I'll tell you this. I mean, I would almost have, Jaden Daniels to me is the only quarterback that you're going to be able to walk into day one, and because AP has, your back, you're going to be able to walk in and say, that's my team. It's not easy for a rookie to be able to walk into a team and say, this is my team. And if you're drafting a Bo Nix, a J.J. McCarthy, I would have faith in McCarthy to be able to, I think McCarthy's a much better leader than somebody like a Bo Nix, though I think Bo could do it. But do you think an NFL team would respond better to Russell Wilson coming in there with that C on his chest or a rookie?
I think it's going to be Russell Wilson.
I mean, it's a fair argument. I think that you could look at it both ways, man. The NFL guys that I've talked to, current Raiders, former Raiders, players a long time ago, one of the hardest, I'll say, pills to swallow is, let's say you're an 8, 9, 10-year vet. Even if you've been in the league for 3-4 years, some guy's just going to walk in onto your squad and now they're the guy. That's the captain. It's not as easy as what people think. I mean, Imagine your work, where you work right now. Like, I've been here for 6 years. If somebody were to walk in and say, I'm the captain and, like, this is my team, I would be like, nah, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
Like,
I think it probably does depend a lot how Russ, if he were to join the Raiders, how he kind of presents himself to the guys. I got to feel like with what he's been through these past couple of years, like he was at the very top of the top.
Yep.
And in these past couple of years, it's like, man, it was rough.
It humbled him.
You'd think.
Yeah.
You'd think.
I mean, you can almost call him Ruffle Wilson.
Ruffle Wilson.
Jeffrey Kreischer says, that's a nice jersey. You're damn right. You're damn right. And again, I'm not drinking today, but if Jeffrey does send in a hundo and we do bang, he gets 3 bangs for the month of March, which that would mean we're only 2 away from somebody getting a free entry. Just hint, hint, nudge, nudge if you in. Let's go to Nico. Outbid the Chiefs for Chris Jones no matter what. Help us really hurts them. If not, get Wilkins. Like, if I completely agree with you, Nico. Like, I've already said here on this show that if I'm Las Vegas, if I'm going to spend $20 million plus, it's going to be at the defensive tackle position. Now, if I can get Christian Wilkins at $20 million, and then I can also add a Robert Hunt, like, would you rather have, here's a question, would you rather have Christian Wilkins and Robert Hunt's going to be a little bit more. How about Damian Lewis? Damian Lewis is a lineman that I've talked about, but you could get a top 5, top 10 defensive tackle in Christian Wilkins, and you can also get a reliable starting offensive lineman or just Chris Jones. Like, I get the double-edged sword of you can steal Chris Jones away from Kansas City. I get that idea, but it's going to cost $32 million a year, I think. I think it's going to be a hefty one.
Well, Wilkins is still really, really good as well. I get Chris Jones is probably the best interior guy right now, but man.
All right, how about this? Here's my question to all you out there. Would you choose option 1 or option 2? Option 1 is Chris Jones and Greg Van Roten. I think that's what it would end up costing the Raiders to get Chris Jones and Greg Van Roten. Or Robert Hunt and Christian Wilkins. Because that's also what I believe it's going to end up costing. Like, based off that, I would say Wilkins and Robert Hunt.
Yeah, I'm typing my 2s. I'm typing my 2s for that.
However, though, I also know that some people want to have Chris Jones because then the Chiefs don't have Chris Jones.
I get it. And I get just wanting the best at his position. I get that as well. I could see it both ways.
Wilkins is going to get $23 million a year. Yeah, I could see him probably getting 23. I just see Chris Jones getting above 30. Like, if I'm Chris Jones, the only way I'm coming to a team that's not the Chiefs is if you give me a deal bigger than Aaron Donald. Or else I'm just going to go back to Kansas City. I'll take a little bit of less money, and I'll try to win my 3rd Super Bowl in a row.
Like, it's going to take a lot. Going to take a lot to get him away. Got to pay up for what he's going to give you. Yes,
sir. Let's go to Smash Raider. Happy B-Day to me. Can I get a Raiders? Spam HBD down below for Smash Raider. I'm kind of curious how you got that nickname. Let's go to Rebel. We going to be the face of a meme if Russ comes to us. Raider Nation, let's gamble.
Let's gamble.
Oh, man. I mean, I feel like anything with Russell Wilson's a meme.
Him on the Raiders is kind of perfect. It's kind of perfect.
I mean, again, I've already said on the show, Russ is probably one of my most disliked players in the NFL.
Oh, even better. Even better.
I mean, I'll tell you this, though. As soon as he puts on that jersey, I'm going to root for him, right? Like, I did not want the Raiders to go out and get Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm sitting up here. Hell, I was cheering on Jimmy Garoppolo in Madden for the love of God. It's sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do. All right, y'all, we got 800 people here in the building. We went live a little bit early today for the NFL franchise tag deadline, so keep that in mind. I'll answer a few questions, and then we are going to get into our next segment, which is going to be, it's the cornerbacks. Yeah, I'm like,
cornerbacks.
what's the missing one to me? Cornerbacks. What up, Robert? Sign Wilson 1 year, $2 to $3 million. Don't insult the man. And better chance to get him. Trade up to 5 and 7 with 13 and 25 first to see if Daniels falls. If not, offensive line, defensive line, and other quarterback. I'm going to disagree with this one just because, again, you're not insulting him. He's still getting $39 million, and based off of the reports, he wants to take the $1.21 million deal because he wants to screw over the Denver Broncos more. If Wilson wasn't making any money, then this might be a little bit of a different discussion, but he already knows he's making $39 million this year, and then whatever 89 minus 39 is, $50 million the following season. So, he's good on the whole money for the next few seasons. He wants to screw over Denver. The other reason why I'm not going to trade up to 5 and 7 and hope that Daniels falls is because that's not a smart use of all your picks, because if you're going to use that first-round pick in 2025, well, what happens if Russell Wilson leaves next year, and now you don't have a first-round pick to go get your quarterback the following season? So I'm not going to really go on board for that. If Daniels ends up falling and you are able to get him, then yes, I'm trading up to go get him. But what I don't want to risk is just being there at, let's say, pick 5, pick 7. You give up your first-round pick. Daniels doesn't fall. You take an offensive lineman who can be good, but then you enter next offseason with no first-round pick, and the quarterback conversation continues yet again. And then you might even be in a situation where you have to give Russell Wilson a lot of money. Let's go to Jesse. I hate to say it. Also, for some NFL news, Eric Kendricks, he was just released by the Chargers. I hate to say it, but I don't think we're going to give up a lot of future picks to get Daniels. So who would we get? Who would we get from there? Go O-line or cornerback at 13 and get a quarterback in the third round like Rattler. Luckily for you, Jesse, I have an entire show around this question here. So I have 15 non-QB prospects that the Raiders should target at pick number 13. I also didn't put any wide receivers in there because I just thought that, one, the good wide receivers will be gone, / it's not the biggest need for Las Vegas right now. So it'll just be a segment coming up at the end of today's show. Let's go to Drake. What about Baker? I know he is a Band-Aid, but might be something to look at. The problem is, would you rather pay Baker Mayfield? Because right now, according to ESPN, according to reports, and I think Baker gets minimum $27 million per year. What the Raiders gave Jimmy Garoppolo, that's going to be the minimum what Baker gets. And it sounds like Baker might even be able to get 4 years, $120 million, $30 million a year. $30 million a year for Baker Mayfield or $1.2 million for Russell Wilson. And that's the conversation. Even if it's just Russell or Baker, I might still take Russell. You know what I mean? I don't want Baker Mayfield because, one, I think he just ends up going back to Tampa Bay, and it's a lot of money. Paying Baker Mayfield that much money after one good season, there's so many analogies that go along with that, where then a team's stuck on a quarterback. That kind of reminds me of the New York Giants. Now, don't get me wrong, Baker had a much better year than what Daniel Jones did the year before, but he won one playoff game. Now they give him $40 million per year. If he goes back to being what he is, are you 100% confident that Baker can be a top 15 quarterback for the next 4 years? If that answer is yes, you give him the money. If that answer is no, I'm not giving him the money. All right, y'all, we're going to get into our next segment here, but again, $20 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365 for a chance to win a little bit of money. The last name that I saw was Mr. Guevara, and then one of the best last names in the biz, Tony Knutson. You in. Right now, as it stands, winner would get $150 here on the Raiders Report. Next show coming up here is around Antonio Pierce, and he wants a certain position, and he wants it this offseason. I'll tell you what that is. I got some players that the Raiders could potentially target coming up here on the Raiders Report. Raider Nation, it's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and today's show is presented by Panda Supps. If anybody out there is looking for the best tasting protein on the market that can also give you 30 grams of protein and about 140, 150 calories per scoop, only 1 gram of sugar, head over to pandasupps.com. Use code Raiders for 20% off. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. So coming up here on the Raiders Report, Antonio Pierce wants the Raiders to add a cornerback 1 to their roster. In an article released by The Athletic, it was noted that Pierce had a strong want, a priority at being able to figure out how the Raiders can add somebody at the very top of their cornerback depth chart. I understand that the Raiders have Jack Jones and they have Nate Hobbs, and those are going to be two solid corners. The Raiders are losing Amik Robertson. The Raiders were also counting on Marcus Peters last season, and this team believes that adding a legit cornerback one is a major priority this offseason. My question to you is this, because obviously you can look at free agency. You can obviously look at the 2024 NFL Draft. Where do you go? Do you sign a cornerback one in free agency? If you're like, yes, Mitch, I'm typing my F. My ask is, though, if you're going to type your F for free agency, give me a name. I want to know. If you're like, nope, we're going to wait for the draft. We're going to target a cornerback one in the draft. I want you to type D for draft below. If you haven't seen this report, if you don't know what I'm talking about, again, AP believes that adding a cornerback one this offseason is, in fact, a priority. Vic Tafur says that the Raiders want an instinctive difference maker and that a player that allows the Raiders to play more zone coverage when showing man at the line of scrimmage. So if you haven't seen this report from The Athletic, here is everything that Antonio Pierce is looking for in that cornerback one. Media types as well as fans on the couch types could easily pick out the Raiders' major needs as quarterback, offensive line, and defensive tackle. We were surprised to learn how big a difference they think a number one cornerback would make, and this draft is deep at that position. Jack Jones was an impact starter when he was picked up last season, and Nate Hobbs is a tough slot corner when healthy. Amik Robertson started 12 games and was effective, but appears set to test free agency, and the Raiders would love to add someone they would plug in at top of the depth chart, an instinctive difference maker that would allow them to play some zone coverage when they are showing man at the line of scrimmage. So as it stands right now, here's the Raiders' cornerback depth chart. And there's going to be some players that are leaving. There's going to be some players, obviously, that stay. But Amik Robertson is a free agent. Tyler Hall also is set to hit the free agent market as well this offseason. But Brandon Faison, you can cut him, save some money. I don't trust Armstrong. Sam Webb is a Josh McDaniels guy. Jacorian Bennett was drafted by the Raiders. There are so many question marks at the cornerback position for this organization. So coming up here, I'm going to look at some potential cornerback ones that the Raiders could draft. And to me, there are only 4 names. Like, 4, I'm talking, if the report is based on legit cornerback one, like a guy that I would be confident putting on an island, letting him do his thing, and acting like a cornerback one opposite of Jack Jones, there are 4 corners that I have that confidence in, and you're going to see those names. But based on the Athletics report, it does seem like that this is going to be a need that they addressed in the draft, or that they address in the draft. Because when you look at the free agency corners, I don't love them being cornerback ones. Now, there's some good value, and I'll talk about some of that value. But overall, it sounds like the Raiders are once again going to be looking at the cornerback position in the draft. If you haven't already joined the Raiders Report family, please make sure you do so. I got it tatted on me just like I know a bunch of y'all do as well. So believe me when I tell you, this is a fan base that has proven to me time and time again that you don't got to be blood to be family. And if you're looking for more Raiders draft news, I got you covered. If you want analysis on why, like Antonio Pierce, like anybody can say that Antonio Pierce is looking for a cornerback one. This show is, I'm going to tell you that, but I'm also going to tell you, here are some corners that the Raiders can target. If you like those type of shows, then I believe I'm the show for you. So there is only 4 corners that the Raiders should consider in the 2024 NFL Draft to be legit number 1 corners. You're going to be able to find some other players later in the draft, and they might have to end up being your starter. But if it's based on the report and the report alone of legit number 1 corner, then to me there are 4 corners the silver and black need to keep in mind. The first name that I'm going to bring up here is Nate Wiggins. For people that watch the show often, you don't know that Nate Wiggins has been and always will be, I guess, for this year, my number 1 corner in this class. Now, he is unfortunately batting a little bit of an injury right now from the combine. He's expected to be more than okay, though, for Clemson's Pro Day. I do want to break down why I love these players, but I also love to give you guys a different opinion, and one of the best in the biz is Daniel Jeremiah, and this is what he had to say on Wiggins. Wiggins is tall, long cornerback with outstanding speed. He is effective in press coverage. He gets his hands on receivers, but he'll need to let go earlier at the next level. He is a fluid mover and has plenty of deep speed. He can locate and play the ball down the field. He will have concentration lapses at times, trying to peek back at the quarterback, which makes him lose position. From off coverage, he is efficient in his transition, and he closes in a hurry. I was a little disappointed in his lack of aggression against the run. He is content to hang on block at times, and his effort to chase from the backside is spotty at best. Some of this could be due to high play counts, but it's still bothersome. Overall, Wiggins is dripping with athleticism and physical traits, but he needs to be more invested in the run game. We know how the Raiders are with Marcus Peters. He will have to be a little bit more invested in that run game, but if you're able to get him early in the draft, I think it's a good pick to look at. Another name to consider is Terrion Arnold. I had a scout reach out to me at the NFL Combine that said that he personally thought that the biggest winner at the cornerback position, maybe outside of the next name, but the corner that he's most confident that gets taken number one off, or is the number one cornerback taken off the board, is Terrion Arnold from Alabama, based on things that he said, what he's done, and the tape that shows it. Daniel Jeremiah on Arnold said Arnold has ideal size, speed, and instincts for the position. He plays both outside and inside at the nickel. He is effective in press coverage and off coverage. He is fluid to open up and mirror in press. He has plenty of speed to stay in phase on deep balls. From off coverage, he has quick and smooth pedal, and he doesn't waste steps in his plant drive. He's also effective playing with a side turn, anticipating routes before cutting them off. He has outstanding ball skills, and the production, 5 interceptions, 17 passes defended in 2023, reflects his ability. He is a physical face-up tackler. He doesn't miss tackles in space. Overall, I struggle to find much to criticize in Arnold's play. Despite his lack of experience at the position, having arrived at Alabama as a highly regarded safety prospect, he has all the tools and traits to be a Pro Bowl caliber cornerback. I will admit, out of all the corners that I am going to talk about today, the one that I believe would be the best fit with Patrick Graham, the corner that I believe is the best fit with Antonio Pierce and their mentality, is probably Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. Let's go to the next name here. It's Quinion Mitchell, hell of a last name, and he's really shot up draft boards this offseason. I knew that Mitchell was a good player. I had him in one of my mock drafts earlier this offseason. However, I did not anticipate that some people think that he could be a top 15 pick in the 2024 NFL draft. He crushed it at the Senior Bowl. He crushed it at the Combine, and he's showing that, you know what, some of these small school guys, they deserve your attention. Mitchell has excellent size, giggity, size, speed, and toughness for the position. He is at his best in off-man coverage, where he plays out of a side turn and eyes the quarterback through the wide receiver. He is very situationally aware, selling at the sticks before triggering on the ball. There's a noticeable burst when he drives downhill. He has plenty of speed to turn and carry go routes. He also can quickly restart and recover versus double moves. Occasionally, there is a little tightness when must flip his hips down the field. He has exceptional ball skills. See his tape from 2022 when he had 5 interceptions, including a pair of pick sixes. But he wasn't challenged very often in 2023. I love his desire and physicality against the run. He never hangs on blocks, and he bursts to the ball carrier before coming to balance and collecting tackles. Overall, Mitchell is a feisty competitor with outstanding speed and a history of ball production. I'll give you the final player here that I think the Raiders could target in the draft to be a cornerback one, but I do want to tell you about today's sponsor, Panda Supps. And I have recently just received the mint chocolate chip and the cinnamon toast crunch. And let me just tell you, the mint chocolate chip might be my new favorite protein on the market right now, and you can get it for 20% off at pandasupps.com. All you got to do is use code Raiders to be able to get the hookup. And I've recently, you guys know that I bought a Ninja Creamy. You mix this with milk, and some scoops of that, you get a high protein ice cream, and you're not even going to believe how healthy it really truly is. If you're more of a Cinnamon Toast Crunch fan, which I get, both are good. And one of my favorite things about both of them is there is actual chunks of cereal, in the protein. There's also chunks of, cookie from the mint chocolate chip one. And what's wild is you're going to eat it, and you're going to be like, dude, there's just no way that this is healthy for me at all. I'm here to tell you that, guess what? It is actually very healthy for you. You can get 30 grams of protein, 4 grams of carbs, 2 grams of sugar, 1 gram of fat, 150 calories, and it's also a multi-stage fast and slow release type of protein. So it's great for if you're trying to curb your appetite. It's great after a workout. Bottom line, if you got a sweet tooth like me and you need some new protein, go try it out. The guy who owns this company is also a Raider fan. So if you support real ones out there, go to pandasupps.com, use code Raiders. Let's go to the final player that I think the Raiders could target to be their cornerback one in the draft, Ennis Rakestraw. And this is another player that I'm starting to learn more and more about. He is from Dallas, Texas, which I know a few people that actually know him personally, and If the Raiders do end up drafting him, there's a chance that I might be able to get him because one of my friends is good friends with him, and I've made a connection through that. Anyway, though, Daniel Jeremiah, what he has to say on Ennis Rakestraw. Rakestraw is a rangy, fluid cornerback who plays with energy and toughness. He is physical in press coverage, and he stays attached underneath it vertically. He is a loose athlete who can flip his hips smoothly. He does a nice job staying on the deep routes, and he can locate the ball. I'd like to see him do a better job of finishing with the ball instead of simply poking away at it. He is awesome against the run. Not only is he quick and key read, but he attacks blockers, including offensive linemen. Watch the Georgia tape from this past November to see him thud off an offensive tackle before delivering a physical stop. He is always bouncing around. His energy is palatable through the screen. Overall, players with this profile at this position traditionally translate very well at the next level. So to me, I want to know from all of you, who is the best corner in the 2024 NFL Draft? My number one corner in this year's draft is Nate Wiggins, okay? I will admit, though, he might not be the number one best fit with the Las Vegas Raiders. And if you're looking for a pure cover corner, I do think Wiggins is going to translate well. If, and this is important, based off of what Antonio Pierce wants, he wants somebody that gives him a little bit more versatility, and he wants somebody that they can put up near the line of scrimmage, and he wants somebody that can hit. Arnold, Mitchell, and Rakestraw might be the better fits for what the Raiders are looking for, but I do say, overall, the best corner this year's draft, I am going to stick here with Nate Wiggins. If you want to see what my cornerback rankings are, luckily, I got them right here for you. And to me, there's a lot of really good cornerback depth, and whether Las Vegas wants to take any of these guys, like if you told me right now Ennis Rakestraw is available to the Silver and Black at pick number 44, I think that might be a more and more an intriguing option for them to potentially look at. Cooper DeJean, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Kamari Lassiter are also some names to keep in mind for at pick 44. TJ Tampa, Cam Hart, Kalen Carson, I would say at this point are more of names to keep in mind for round 3, round 4 of the 2024 NFL Draft. So coming up here, we're also going to look at some corners that the Raiders could potentially sign in free agency, because if you can't get your guy in the draft, or if you're not sure, if you're not in love with any of these cornerback ones, and if Antonio Pierce is saying that it's a priority, that tells me that they're going to make it a priority. So where the Raiders are currently at and with free agency, Jalen Johnson, franchise tag. L'Jarius Sneed, franchise tag. So to me, there's only a few players that you could even consider that could be maybe cornerback ones on this team. The first name, and I'll now say probably the top corner on the market here for Las Vegas, is Kendall Fuller. He is not getting up there in age, but he is one of the older corners coming off a solid year with the Commanders. And if you're going to have a good year with that defense, I'd be really interested to see what you could do in Las Vegas. Steven Nelson is another name to keep in mind. He's 31 years old, though it's expected that the Texans do their best to keep him in-house. And from what I understand, him and D'Amico are pretty tight. Another name here, it's the last name that I'm going to talk about, is Adoree Jackson. And Jackson is one name where I'm not saying he's a cornerback one. It would still be somebody that I would like the Raiders to go out and still draft a corner. But Adoree Jackson back in 2021 had the best season, had his career year with Patrick Graham with the New York Giants. He has battled a lot of injury issues. However, when he's been healthy, he's been a productive player, and he also gives you a lot of versatility, which I know is very important for Antonio Pierce, Patrick Graham, Tom Telesco in this upcoming season for the Silver and Black. Should the Raiders try to get a cornerback one of free agency or the draft after hearing those names? I am going to say the draft.
I would say the draft as well. Higher upside, I feel like.
Higher upside in the draft. A lot of good depth. Now, if you can sign Adoree Jackson to a 1-year, $5 million deal and then also add a corner in the draft, I'm on board for that.
Not a bad option either.
Which, I mean, here's the thing. What the Raiders do in free agency is going to really, really impact what they do in the draft, right? Yeah. Like, if they go out and they sign a bunch of offensive linemen, and they bring back Jermaine Illuminor, let's say you go out and sign Damian Lewis, and then you also sign, Robert Hunt. Offensive line's not an issue for them anymore. Then you can start focusing on other positions in the draft. So, based on the reports and based off some of the things that Telesco said, it wouldn't shock me if the Raiders really focus on their O-line in free agency and then turn more to other positions in the draft. But a lot's going to happen. A lot can remain to be seen. Chip, can you give a few shout-outs here? I am going to put on my last and final jersey of the day.
Yes, sir.
Sounds good.
If you want a shout out, get in there, answer this question right now. F for free agency, D for the draft, and drop a name while you're at it as well. Let me know who you'd go after. I'm seeing a lot of Terrion Arnold. King Raider. I'm seeing Can't Control wants to draft somebody. Yeah, King Raider loves Terrion Arnold. Ron Raspberry draft, but if we go get Daniels, it will be possible. You can get a guy in the second round. You can get a guy like Kool-Aid in the second round, even someone like a Kamari Lassiter. DeJean probably goes round 1, but you could always go somebody top of the second round if you don't sign a guy. Vigenzo, Terrion Arnold, Kings Alex Rakestraw. I think if you can get any of those I like all those top 6, I'm going to be honest. From Wiggins all the way to Kool-Aid, I think if I'm a team and I'm looking for a guy to step in this year and play and be effective, yep. I like all those top 6. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, that's the thing. Like, there is a lot of good cornerback depth in this year's class. Like, yeah. There really, really, truly is. And it's even a part of me where I would think if the Raiders traded back even in round 1, you're going to be able to get one of those guys. Like, I don't think Rakestraw goes top 20. I want to say Quinion Mitchell goes top 20.
Could be close. Could go to the Eagles close, like 21.
But, I would say Terrion Arnold, Nate Wiggins are almost a lock to go top 20. Now, some teams might not be as high on Wiggins because of if you want more of a physical corner. He can be a physical player. He's a good player. He's just not nearly as physical as those other guys that we just mentioned.
Very small.
Yeah. Let's go to John Rodriguez. You're next up here on the show. Oh, my God, Mitch. We should go after Keyshawn Nixon. He's an awesome kick returner. There's a part of me that just wonders if Keyshawn just goes back to Green Bay. Because Nixon was drafted by the Raiders. I'm trying to think what year that was at this point. Out of South Carolina, round 6. And couldn't really find his footing. Couldn't really find, where he was playing. And that's what happens when you have all these different regimes that end up coming in. And then he goes to Green Bay, becomes basically a Pro Bowl returner with Rich Bisaccia. And when Rich Bisaccia was hired by Green Bay, he took Keyshawn Nixon with him. I mean, if I'm Keyshawn, I'm just staying in Green Bay. And if I'm Bisaccia and I'm Green Bay, I've got to do everything I can to keep Nixon. He's not a cornerback 1. Yes, he's a good kick returner, but you're not going to trust him to play corner.
No.
Yeah. Let's go to Mac. I'm going to ask Mac Bear. What about Howard from Miami? I do think Xavier Howard is an intriguing option. So the Raiders' secondary coach, Gerald Alexander, actually spent some time with Xavier Howard back in their time in Miami. Also, Patrick Graham has some experience down in Miami. Rob Leonard comes from Miami as well. He's the Raiders' defensive line coach. So I could see a fit for Xavier Howard. It's an intriguing option. And now that that's even been pointed out to me, I'm kind of kicking myself in the butt that wasn't a name that I at least put in that video. So, Mac Bear, shout out to you. That should have been a name that I put in that last video. But sometimes we miss. Let's go to Raider Baby Maker. What up, Baby Maker?
Baby Maker.
Any buzz on Christian Wilkins coming to Vegas? No buzz around it. If Las Vegas isn't interested, shame on them. The reason why Wilkins' name gets tied into the Raiders so often is because Rob Leonard coached Christian Wilkins in Miami, and they do have a connection there. On top of that, Patrick Graham was in Miami for a small amount of time, so there's connections galore, and Wilkins is the top defensive tackle. It's Chris Jones at number 1. Wilkins is number 2. I think a lot of people anticipate that the Chiefs end up bringing back Chris Jones, so then Wilkins would be number 1. Let's go to James. Russ would be a good pick if he's okay with taking a back seat in the event he gets beat out by the starting quarterback. Can't be a toxic humbug in the locker room. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If you end up signing Russell Wilson and he gets beat out, then you're right. You should just go with the guy that's the better quarterback. Now, I know that Aiden's not good enough to beat out Russell, so that's not really the question. It would be more of if the Raiders end up drafting a rookie and he ends up beating out Russ, then it's a little bit of a different conversation, because I would say that if the Raiders sign Russell Wilson, it is with the plan, it is with the intent that he is going to be your starting quarterback in 2024, and no matter which quarterback you end up drafting would be more to be underneath Russell Wilson. Now, if the Raiders were to draft Jaden Daniels and Russell's get me the hell out of here, peace out. I'm not going to miss you. You just can't have a situation where it's We don't have any quarterback in free agency. We're going to get a quarterback in the draft. We don't get a good quarterback in the draft, and now we're rolling with Aiden O'Connell again. For those that don't know what our March bangs are, it's a $100 super chat. Most bangs this month wins an MVP jersey. Right now, Fat Bearded Dad is out to the early lead. Every bang, you get one entry into our raffle, which today we've only had one bang, which usually the bangs happen on Friday when we get a little bit wet and wild. Shout out to Elijah. Every bang, you get a raffle ticket for a chance to win a signed Raiders helmet here on the Raiders Report. We'll do this at the end of the month, and every 5 bangs that we get, we give away one free entry raffle. And if I got your shirt on, jersey, so if Savior were to pull up here, bang, he gets 3 bangs for the March entry raffle. Sound good? Hope so. Final call here for our 50-50 raffle, $20 Venmo at Mitchell Renz. 365. I'm going to refresh my phone, and then we have one more segment to do here on the Raiders Report. After this segment, after that, I'm going to say bon voyage to all of you, and I'm going to get ready to go home because that's what happens after the show. Well, we do a little bit of work. Usually after the show, we're here for another hour-ish, and then we're able to bounce after we get everything cleaned up and done. Tony Jones, you, sir, in. Tony Jones, you in, and then everybody's scared. Everyone's scared of Anthony Green. You in. So as it stands right now, 17 people in, $20 Venmo. It means you have an opportunity to win $170 here on the Raiders Report. So the next segment coming up here on the show is going to be 15 players that the Raiders could draft at pick 13. That's not a quarterback and not a wide receiver. That show, I want to say, is presented by 8 Sleep, so just keep that in mind. Let me get a sip of water here. I also see I got multiple notifications on Venmo. Tony Jones wants to be my friend. You got it. You got it, Tony. All right. And then Friday, I'm also going to show you guys what Allie Barefoot made me, because Friday is going to be our show that we get a little bit wild here, so just keep that in mind. She made something for Raider Nation, and it's pretty freaking sick. I'm not going to lie.
It is awesome.
We're going to be using it in free agency. There is no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be popular.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think it's going to be very popular, which actually I got an idea right now that I want to write down, and I just don't want to forget it. Okay. Got it. All right, I'm going to refresh again to see if any new faces are in. Don't see any. Let's go to, I think a super chat just came in. Just got a few. We'll answer them, and then we'll get into the final segment here of today's show. Let's go to James O. How far back do we trade to get a second rounder? What do you mean, to get a second rounder? Like, how far do we have to trade back to get a second round pick? I mean, if a team like, I don't know, let's say Pittsburgh. If Pittsburgh wanted to go from 20 all the way up to 13, Pittsburgh might have to give you their first round pick to go that far. If you're looking at a team like, I don't know, like the Bengals, like maybe they could do their second round pick and then a first round pick to move up type of thing. I guess I don't understand the question. Like, how far back do we trade to get a second rounder?
Yeah, I think it's like, you know, obviously if a team trades up farther, they're going to give up more. Yeah. So, yeah, how far back?
If anybody ever has questions like this, you can literally go on Google right now, and it's obviously not 100% accurate, but it does paint a picture, and it can help out people understand how much trades are worth. You can literally go on Google, look up the NFL trade value chart. It tells you, like, what trades are worth. Again, it's a projection, but you can go on Google. You can look up the NFL trade value chart. It's how I make a lot of my trades. Now, I will admit, the way that they do it is if, like, a 2025 first-round pick is worth a second-round pick in 2024. A 2026 first-round pick is worth a third-round pick in 2024. So I do think it's like you got to keep your math together. They explain all that to you, but check it out. You can do your math. Maybe that'll help you answer your question a little bit better than I did. Raider Man Wilson at 1.2 mil. Low risk, high reward. Am I wrong? Just win, baby. You're not wrong. You are 100% hitting the nail on the head here, and it is a low risk, high reward. And I actually can't wrap my mind around the idea of people not being on board with the idea of getting Russell Wilson. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get Jaden. It doesn't mean that. If anything, you're just giving yourself more security, and more security than not overpay this offseason, which you don't want to overpay in the draft. But again, if you can get your guy, I want you to go get your guy. All right, y'all, let's get into our final segment here on the show, and then we're going to do our duck race, and I'm going to get out of here. We're going to skedaddle. You ready, Chip? Oh, boy. Chip's ready. I'm ready. The question is, are y'all ready? Let's get into some players that the Raiders could draft at 13. Raider Nation, it's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And before I tell you my top 15 players that the Las Vegas Raiders should draft at pick number 13, not quarterback or wide receiver, today's show is sponsored by 8 Sleep. And if you're just looking to improve your sleep, which, believe it or not, you do it every day and it's very important, go to 8sleep.com/chatsports. That link's going to be available to you all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. So when I thought about this video, I thought about the idea of, we always sit up here and we talk about, well, let's go get a quarterback in round 1. Let's go get Tom Telesco Antonio Pierce, their franchise guy. But I also often neglect a lot of other very talented prospects. So what I wanted to do today is, I'm not going to include any quarterbacks, and I'm not going to include any wide receivers, because we talk about quarterbacks all the time, and wide receiver is probably the one position that I'm the most confident with right now for the Silver and Black. So based on the Raiders' top needs of this time that I'm making this video, quarterback is the biggest need. And as you can see, wide receiver, it's not even listed on here. So the rankings that you're going to see, and I'm going to count from 15 and make my way down to 1, it's based on how good the player is and just the overall team need here for the Silver and Black. If you're looking for Raiders draft videos, we got you covered. We're pumping out tons of content every single day. On top of that, we will be live for the 2024 NFL Draft. We're going to get the picks before you see them on TV. Sometimes we are multiple picks ahead of the television broadcast. Then on top of that, we're going to be live for every pick, every single round. We're going to be partying, having a good time. And if you enjoy our watch parties like on game days, then you're going to love our NFL draft coverage here on the Raiders Report. So subscribe, turn on those notifications. It would help us out a lot. So let's go to number 15 on my Raiders draft targets, not at the quarterback position. I'm going to go with Tyler Guyton. And Guyton can play some offensive tackle. I would like to see a little bit more out of him in terms of getting more established in the pass blocking game. He was productive at the Senior Bowl, was one of the clear winners there, and for that reason, he comes in at 15. If you like upside, you're going to love number 14, offensive tackle from Georgia, and he's a right tackle, Amarius Mims. He's like 6'7", dude's an athletic freak, doesn't have a lot of game tape, but when he's on, he is one of the most interesting offensive tackle prospects, and if you told me who's got the highest upside, I think Amarius Mims is in that top 3 discussion. Coming in here at number 13, it's Latu, the edge from UCLA. And one of the things that I'm a sucker for, I'll be honest, is when players look up to guys like Crosby, and you can already tell that Latu loves himself from Mad Max. Even though edge isn't a big-time need, I do want the Raiders to go with best player available. Here's a nice little clip that we got from the NFL Combine that Latu had to say.
Max Crosby. I mean, the way he plays the game. I mean, he's a madman, and the way he gets after it in the run, and you know, I can't look up to him enough, and especially T.J. Watt too. I mean, he's another dude that hits that Euro chop really clean. You ever met Max? I haven't met Max. I talked to him on the phone a little bit. He's giving me some tips and stuff like that, and then in the coming weeks, I'll be able to watch some film with him and get some field work with him. Actually, yeah.
So besides quarterback, what is the Raiders' biggest draft need? We're going to keep on rolling here with these rankings here. Is it defensive tackle? Is it offensive tackle? Is it corner? Is it another position? Like, we're going to get into a bunch of other ones. To me, these are clearly the top 3, and this is where I'm kind of leaning for the Raiders. But I got to know from you, what's the biggest need for the Raiders besides the quarterback position? Let me know down below. Let's go to number 12 here on my list. Jared Verse, the edge from Florida State. I actually grew up very close to where Verse is, and he's had a interesting career path. Was not a very highly recruited player, but continues to get better and better and better. His edge bend is extremely impressive, and if you were able to pair him with Malcolm Kuntz, He's better than Malcolm Kuntz, and that's saying a lot considering how good Kuntz was with Antonio Pierce this final season where he had 8 sacks in 9 games. But at the end of the day, man, if you got Patrick Mahomes in your division, at the end of the day, man, in the NFL, you can't have enough edge rushers. Let's go to number 11 on the list. It's Johnny. Some of y'all know him as Jerzon. He said at the Combine that he wants to go by Johnny Newton, the defensive tackle from Illinois. Big boy up the middle. He's going to be able to take on double teams, and sometimes defensive tackles don't put up sexy numbers, but when you take on a double team, it allows a lot of other players around you to put up those sexy numbers. If you're trying to look a little bit sexier, guess what? I've heard a good night's sleep helps you look a little bit better. And today's episode is brought to you by 8 Sleep, the high-tech solution to your age-old sleeping issues. 8 Sleep's Pod 3 cover slips right over your mattress, bringing heating and cooling tech that keeps you comfortable and sleeping deeper for a better, more restful night. I love 8 Sleep because it has totally stopped my night sweats. Alex likes to snuggle, my dog Chuck likes to snuggle, and both of them are way warmer than they even know. Thanks to 8 Sleep, I don't wake up sweating and get a better night's sleep. The pod cover will improve your sleep by automatically adjusting your bed's temperature based on your individual needs. The cover can be added to any bed like a fitted sheet and allows you and your partner to cool or warm your side of the bed as low as 55 degrees and up to 110. In addition to keeping you on the perfect temperature all night, the pod also tracks your sleep and health metrics. On average, pod users see their sleep quality improved by 32% after just a month on the pod. So go to 8sleep.com/chatsports and get $200 off plus free shipping on the pod cover by 8 Sleep. Invest in the rest you deserve with the 8 Sleep pod. I think at the end of the day, any technology that I see or anything that I believe can help me perform on a better daily task is a very important thing. Like, some people might look at this and go, Mitch, I only sleep 5-6 hours a day. Here's the thing though, on days that I get a bad night's sleep, it impacts my entire day. Since I have gotten 8 Sleep, I have been able to get up to the gym a lot more effectively. I've also just in general been able to get up easier. And sometimes getting up is the hardest thing to do in the morning for me. And the fact that I can get up at 5:30, no problems, and just get my day going, I've seen that, believe it or not, I'm a lot more productive. And when I'm more productive, y'all get more videos. So go check it out, 8sleep.com/Chat Sports. Let's go to number 10 here on my list. It's Brock Bowers. And I think that Bowers is actually one of the best players here in the entire NFL draft. The reason why he's number 10 is because it's not a big need for Las Vegas, though. If you put Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer on the same team, I think that's the most dominant tight end room since Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. Let's go to number 9. It's Byron Murphy II, my number 1 defensive tackle prospect, and I know that DT is a huge, huge need here for Las Vegas. But again, if I'm basing this on best player available, there are other players that I believe are better than Byron Murphy. But you know what? Byron Murphy would be excited to play with Antonio Pierce. Here's what he told us at the NFL Combine.
It would be a blessing to me with the Raiders, and to play with a guy like Max Crosby, that'd be crazy. Cause I never play with a guy like that, so I feel like he'll make my job much easier as well.
Let's go to number 8 now. Shout out to Murphy for saying some kind words there. Number 8 on the board. I'm going to go with Quinion Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. I do have Mitchell ranked higher as an overall prospect than Byron Murphy, though I do think Murphy is probably a little bit of a bigger need. He had a great senior day. He had a great NFL Combine, continues to climb the board. Extremely versatile corner that the Raiders would be lucky to get. At number 7, it's Terrion Arnold, and I do think that if I was a betting man, which I am, the corner that's the most likely to be taken as the number 1 corner in this year's draft is Terrion Arnold. He is extremely versatile, and I'll admit, he might be a better fit with Patrick Graham, and he might be a better fit with this defense because of his physicality, though there is another corner in this year's draft that I think is a better overall corner, or cover corner. At number 6, offensive tackle J.C. Latham, and right tackle from Alabama. I already know that some people are just going to judge the fact that he's an Alabama right tackle. Here's the thing. He's not Alex Leatherwood. He's not even close to Alex Leatherwood. He's a much better overall prospect. He's really good in the run game. Yeah, I'd like to see him get a little bit better in the pass game overall, but JC is an intriguing prospect that the Raiders should absolutely consider at pick number 13. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to drop me a name right now. Besides quarterback, who would you want the Raiders to pick at number 13? So take away Jaden, Caleb. They ain't falling there anyway. Michael, Bo, JJ, throw them all out. No quarterbacks. Honestly, I don't even want you to put wide receivers in this mix. Besides quarterback, who do you want the Raiders to draft at pick number 13? Let's go to number 5 on my list. I got Dallas Turner now. I might be a little bit higher on Dallas than some other people in the media, and the reason why he's on here is it's based on best player available, and to me, Dallas Turner is the best edge rusher in this year's class. Coming in here at number 4 is Nate Wiggins, cornerback out of Clemson, and he's the best coverage corner. When I look at corners, I look at their ability to cover, and Wiggins, to me, is that best fit, though his physicality, I need to see it a little bit more because that could be something that scares away the Raiders. And here at number 3, it's Talisi Fuaga, offensive tackle from Oregon State. He does have some short arms. Some scouts did tell me at the Combine, or our team at the Combine, that they could potentially see him as being a offensive guard. I would hope that if you're going to draft him at number 13, you get the most use out of him as an offensive tackle. He's got a lot of family and friends that are Raiders fans, which maybe I'm a sucker for. Let's go to number 2, offensive tackle, Olu Fashanu, and this man's got all the athletic ability in the world, and I mean, to me, his athletic ability is sky high. He has the ability to be one of the best offensive tackles in the National Football League, and luckily for us, we were able to talk to him at the Combine, and this is what he had to say about Max Crosby. Now, what I want you to listen to is how in-depth he is on technique, because good offensive linemen, they got to get their technique down, and Olu, he's got the technique down.
I could really point out, like Max Crosby, for instance. Max Crosby, he'll get a lot of wins with his first pass rush move, right? But a lot of his success has come from his second move. So he'll get off the ball. He'll engage with an O lineman. The O lineman will have his hands on him, but Max Crosby will one way or another get the O lineman's hands off of him, and he'll finish the play. Make the sack. And in terms of the way that I counter, high energy guys and stuff like that, and that has a lot to do with my grip strength. So again, once I get my hands on a D lineman, I understand that the play's not over. I got to keep straining, got to keep, showing a lot of effort, and the play isn't over until that ball's in the air.
Now let's get into the number 1 player that I would want the Raiders to draft, and it is Joe Alt. I don't think Alt falls out of the top 10. To me, when I look at my offensive line gradings over the past few seasons, the only guys that I have rated higher than Alt are Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater. Now, I know how much Tom Telesco loves a good offensive lineman, especially from Notre Dame. I will admit, if there is one player that I could see the Raiders trading up for, and not very far, that's not a quarterback, the name that I would put money on would be Joe Alt. Let's roll through these names one more time. I got my Raiders draft targets that are not quarterbacks or wide receivers. These rankings are based on overall team need and based on just overall how good they are for the Raiders and their overall fit. So you're going to see a lot of offensive linemen. You're going to see some tight ends as well. Like my number 1 defensive tackle, Byron Murphy, has recently jumped. Johnny Newton in here, Quinion Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, they're definitely up for discussion with Nate Wiggins here at number 4. But as you can see, I want to upgrade the offensive line. I don't care who your quarterback is. I don't care what all the other stuff is. If you're not winning in the trenches, it does not matter. Now, Joe Walden and Olu are mainly left tackles. Talisi Fuaga is a right tackle. I would be curious to see if the Raiders would be interested in putting Olu or Joe at left and kick over Colt Miller to right, or vice versa. That's all we got for you guys today. I mean, that was a jam-packed show.
Loaded show.
All right, speaking of jam, what's your favorite kind? If you're going to, maybe if you're going to make a peanut butter and jelly, what kind of jam are you using?
Okay, well, that's different then. That's
Is it?
different then.
All right, well, then we'll just go jam then.
Well, so if I'm going for a PB&J, I'm going with grape. But if I'm going toast, I let me some strawberry.
That's funny. I'm going to go strawberry, probably no matter what.
Interesting.
Though Alex recently has got me hooked on raspberry jam.
I'm not a fan.
No?
Nah.
Dude, I like it. Shit slaps. I'm a big fan.
I'm always grape or strawberry.
Yeah?
100% all the way.
There was one night that, let's just say, Raider Nation got me going. And I didn't have any jelly or jam. And all I had were, so I like old fashions, and sometimes like in an old fashioned, they'll put those like cherries in there, and all I had were cherries. I literally got a few of them, smushed it on some peanut butter and jelly. It's actually not bad.
If it worked, it worked.
It got me by.
Have Have you ever tried a
Blueberry
toasted
good.
peanut butter and jelly?
What do you mean toasted?
Like you toast the bread. Like you're
I
making
would
toast.
never eat a PB&J unless it was toasted.
Really?
Yeah.
That was something I only discovered like a few years ago.
That's a mind-blowing thing to say
I had
out loud.
never until I think it was
That's like
my
me saying-
sophomore. I guess it would be more than a couple years ago. I think it was my sophomore year of college. Somebody showed me like toasted PB&J. I had never had it before. I was just bread and eat it.
You know you can use milk for cereal.
Really?
You're like, your entire life, I've just used water. I forget what we were talking about earlier today about like warming up food. You've never toasted a PB&J.
Once I hit it, it was a life changer. But I didn't even think about it until it was sophomore year of college.
Another thing that I liked that my dad used to make me, peanut butter and fluff, like marshmallow.
Oh, I was never a fluff
You toast
guy.
that. If you really want to get dangerous, again, I got a sweet tooth, Nutella and fluff
Yeah,
toasted.
Now Nutella. Now we're
Dude.
talking.
Dude, it gets
Now
dangerous.
we're talking.
My waistline has changed quite a bit since I started working here, but hey, it is what it is. Uh-oh. I got Marsh walking in here. These? Yes. They might be out of stock. You could still get a picture of it though, no? Or oh. All right, yeah, just put in it's just got to come back in stock. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. All right, y'all. Final call here. David's on. Who knows the difference between jelly and jam? Do you know the difference between jelly and jam?
I could not tell you. I cannot tell you.
All right. It's kind of similar to a ZJ.
Okay.
So if
It
there's
means nothing to me.
all right, there's a really dark joke with jelly and jam. You can't jam your. All right.
You got to say the full thing.
All right, so basically, the joke of the jelly and jam is you can't jelly your into somebody.
God.
Correct. That's we talked yesterday about learning inside jokes and how people think. I'm willing to bet a lot of money that that's the joke that David's on. Now, if Zahn comes out and he's like, well, actually, it's the way that they make the berries and the way they blend it, I'll say that I'm wrong. But Zahn,
He knows exactly
if
what it
I'm
is.
right, Zahn, let me know. Am I right? Am I right? Raspberry
Nico.
jam and oatmeal. You can't boof any jelly. Oh, man. If you had to boof one jelly, Nico, what would it be? This is usually where the show gets off the rails here. All right. I think we're going to get into our 50-50 raffle. And I'm going to add a few more people here that are getting in. The last name that I gave a shout out for was Anthony Green. So that means the next names are Matt Fluhey, Matt Fluhey. I got Luis Rod, Juan Gutierrez, and then I also just saw one more roll in here. Rustin Long, you in. One more. I think I just saw one more.
Nico said Nutella, so you wouldn't be able to tell.
Yikes. Nico. Raider
So
Ray,
I like the thinking.
you in. So that means $20 Venmo right now for a chance to win $230. So I am going to send you all these names. I'll send them to TV. I'll send them to TV here. Okay. And I'll just say this. Y'all got... Why is it not going? Oh, it's because I didn't do that. All right, hang on. And now we're
Hang
good.
on. There we go.
I'm going to give you all 60 seconds on the clock. If it's not in by 60 seconds, it goes to Chuck's college fund. You already know the drill. If it's not in by 60 seconds, it's going to Chuck's college fund. Alfredo Robles, you in. Now we are at 24 people in the race. Winner gets $240. If you want to add me as a friend, at MitchellRenz365. If you're watching this on your computer, you can scan it with your phone. It's camera. As easy as that. If you're watching it on your phone, I do think the easiest way is download the Venmo app, which is 100% for free, by the way. It's also a great app just for, like, transferring money. So, like, my mom, my dad, they live, in Pennsylvania, and this might surprise you, I don't mail them money or I don't write a check. I couldn't even tell you the last time. I don't even know if I've ever written a check. You just send Venmo. Yes, and it's right there. It's right there to them. Easy peasy, beautiful. Yep, we got it. As you can tell, I listen to way too many commercials by Alex. I feel like raspberry would be better. Now we're talking about something totally off the walls. I'll be honest, I didn't even realize what I was walking into. I did not even realize that. Zahn said he already posted it. Oh, all right, Zahn. I got you. Nico, Mitch, did you ever send my Crosby jersey? I want to say the answer to that is yes. I will double check tomorrow. Nico, message me tomorrow. So the day that I handle a lot of my super chat stuff is Wednesday, because my other day is I go live. I do a lot of other stuff. So Wednesday is my catch-up day. So, but the answer is probably. Now, the only way that the answer is no is Crosby's a very popular jersey. So usually if you're a size XL or 2XL, then that one's always like the number one that's out of stock. But and then we just kind of wait. But message me tomorrow. I'll get you an update on the jersey. I got a lot of updates I got to give tomorrow. Like I got to send out a bunch of we got a bunch of hats there from Trace. I got to send out a shit ton of them. We did the other day on the Raiders Report. We did like 8 hats. Yeah, it was wild. All right. Winner's getting, it looks like, let me refresh one more time because I don't think we got, all right, yeah. Winner gets $240. $240 to the winner here on the Raiders Report. Wow, $240. Are you ready, Chip?
I'm ready. Let me shuffle them up. Give them a little shuffle.
Yeah, a little shuff.
3 shuffles and we're good.
We got a little shuff action here. All right. Winner gets $240. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go. And we are off to an early race here, and it looks like Robles gets into an interesting spot, followed by Mo Chavez. Watch out for Jason E.B. It is his birthday, by the way. Is he going to get a dub? I feel like this is a perfect race for Anthony Green, which makes me a little bit nervous. Matt Fluhey right there in the middle. Oh, watch out for James Guevara.
Uh-oh.
Watch out for Mr. Guevara. You see Jason Corona's back there. He's actually in a pretty good spot. Salvador also in a good spot. Matt Fluhey starting to fall back here a little bit. Looks like Randall Carter might have this by just the tip of his hat, though I can't see who this person is right here, and I think that I scared him off a little bit. Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Oh, man, the race is about to shift. Is it going to be Marigil, who I can never pronounce his last name, right now out to an early lead, followed by Matt Fluhey. Watch down here on the bottom is Robles. Down here on the bottom is Robles. 6 seconds to go. Jason E.B. on his birthday. Mo Chavez! Again! Mo!
The late push out of nowhere. Close race. Very close race.
Chavez with the win.
And look at that. He got the gold. Look at that.
Mo Chavez on Friday won $350. And today he's going home with $240.
Wow.
One Jason E.B. Who gets the butthole pick? If you're like, how do I get a butthole pick? It's first off, you got to tell me what if you want jelly or jam. Second,
or Nutella.
I'm not going to do marshmallow. That's just weird. Tony Knutson, of course, Knutson gets the butthole pick.
Perfect.
All right, Mo. Congrats to you, my good friend. Mo, if you can please confirm down below that you just received 240, and Knutson, if you can confirm that you got a butthole pick, let me know. Let me know. Yeah, man. Mo said, hitting my Dougie. Is that what that means? You're doing the Dougie right now?
Hitting the Dougie.
Hitting the Dougie? I hope that's what that means. All right, y'all. I think we're going to get on out of here. Appreciate all y'all for tuning in today. Shout out to all y'all for always pulling up here, having a good time with us. The next time that I'm going to be live, Chugs will be back on Thursday. We're going to be going live at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. Before we go, though, we don't always have new producers here, and like I said, we've been trying to cycle a few things. So if you guys could, throw a few chips down there below. I mean, Chip decided to pull up with us today, tomorrow, and I know some of y'all are like, where's Chugs? Where's Chugs? Well, Chugs also does a lot of other content here at Chat Sports, and Chugs wants to try to become a little bit more of an on-air host, which I'm not going to blame anybody for wanting to do that. So give a little bit of love to Chip, Husker Raider, Rustin Long.
Shout out to y'all, man. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to the Raider Nation. It's always a fun time.
I think the next time we get you on here, I mean, you're going to be on definitely probably during free agency at least once, I would imagine. Some crazy shit's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get a chip deal going. We'll get a
I
chip.
love it.
We'll get a chip deal going. All right, y'all. Enjoy the rest of your night. I'll see you guys live here Thursday on the Raiders Report, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. Mo Chavez, congrats. Tony Knutson, check your DMs.